Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey! Tom Brady was incredible last night for 3 minutes of the football game.
That's all it takes.
Crazy.
I swear to you, it's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in sports.
It is, and it's so much
that's
more
hyperbole.
No,
he was awful.
When you're talking
for
about Tom
57
Brady,
minutes.
there's no hyperbole.
When
with
they
it.
play good teams, they're not going to win.
I don't think they are. But there's it's 16-3 with 3 minutes to go. In 57 minutes, they had scored 3 points.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do anything right.
Right.
My mom and dad were out. We went out to get food, and I talked to my dad, and we watched that game 16-3. And I turned to him after the game, after he had brought him back. I said, "How does this dude do that?"
It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
It's
It
unbelievable.
was also predictable, though. Like, I was watching it, and I was like, he's going to win this game.
But, you know, I did think that in fact, I was texting with a buddy, and I go, we're watching it right now with our very eyes. We're watching Tom Brady get old, and he's ineffective. Mm-hmm. That was with about 5 minutes to go.
Right.
When he threw a fit that they decided to punt, which, by the way, was a brilliant decision by their head coach.
Todd Bowles.
And I thought, God, they just punted the game away. There's no way they're going to get the ball back twice.
Yeah.
And the Saints had possessions of like 45 seconds and 21 seconds. And Tom Brady, who couldn't find the end zone the entire game, struggled against Cleveland, twice in 3 minutes, had length of the field drives, touchdown drives to win the game. It was just unbelievable.
More importantly, I did not watch the second half.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
see any of it. However, what I found out this morning, which I didn't know, you know how they apparently Chris Godwin caught a touchdown, then they called it back?
Yes.
Because of that touchdown got waved off, Earl beat me in fantasy.
Well, I lost my game in fantasy because of it, too.
You had Godwin?
I had Godwin.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I lost by 4.
Well,
I lost
that's
by
what
1.5.
matters.
I was winning in my fantasy draft.
And I didn't see the hold, by the way. They showed the replay. I did not see
I
it.
didn't
It was
see
a soft call. Also, one thing with Brady, do you
Yeah.
guys notice that they went down the field twice when they stopped calling plays and just let Brady run the offense?
Listen,
No
I'm
more
glad,
play
He's
calling.
earned that right.
That's
really
the only time they've won.
I'm
His
really
last
glad
second
you
wins.
said that because can you call up on tag board, find the clip? Brady went
give me 1 sec.
off on his offense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When it was, I think it was 13-3 at this point. But I'm watching this going,
I know.
we're watching a meltdown in real time.
I'm watching that with Stephanie too, and I've said to myself, or I said to her, I go, you know what's really funny is he's yelling at a receiver right now who wasn't born when he started playing in this
He
league.
wasn't. He's got 5 or 6 teammates that weren't born when he came into the league.
Just imagine having Tom Brady screaming at you like that. You watched him your whole life, and now he's telling you failed on
I
public
mean,
television.
He absolutely was going in. And, you know, I don't even know that it was warranted because I have Godwin and Evans.
Yeah.
I have both of them.
And because I have both, I watch Brady. I watch him every game.
Yeah,
I've
right.
watched his throws. Here he is on the sidelines. He is absolutely laying
No matter
into his
what he's
offense.
saying, though, whatever words he's saying, what he's really saying is, why am I getting old? Why am I getting old? I'm supposed to defy time. Why am I getting old?
Whatever it was, it worked.
Yeah.
Because now, again, I've been watching all of his throws.
Yeah.
He's just not Tom Brady. He just
No.
isn't. He's gotten old. I don't think Steve Young did a great piece about quarterbacks getting old and retiring before the broadcast. I love Steve. He's a great guy. He's really a smart guy, and the piece was very well written. It was from his perspective on walking away from a game. And
Sure.
he likened it to dying.
Sure.
He said it's like death for a lot of people. And you heard from Elway in it. You heard from Manning, who was crying all their retirement announcements. And they said, coming out of the piece, he's staring this in the face. And Steve said, but I got to tell you something. I just watched him throw a 25-yard or 35-yard out better than a 25-year-old quarterback can do it. He's going to get there, meaning I'm done, not because of the physical part. It's because all of the mental stuff that beats you down. And then I'm watching him, and I'm thinking back to Steve's piece, and I'm like, we're watching it. This is it. And I think it is it. I do think that this is the end of Tom Brady.
But he still has his moments.
But against the Rams on prime time earlier this year, at a national game earlier this year, he came back and did the unthinkable. He grabbed victory from the jaws of defeat.
Right.
It makes the Browns' victory against them look even better to me.
It does.
because we did that to him.
Yeah,
and
that's
nobody
true.
does that.
And
to him.
he's not done. I
You don't think he's done?
No.
I'd be surprised if he
They're
goes back.
they're lucky they're in a bad division, or they'd have no chance.
Well,
in
here's the
playoffs.
thing. I look at all these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at 7, 8 quarterbacks that I could say if he's done, they're finished.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers
Aaron
is
Rodgers
done.
is done.
I think Aaron Rodgers is done too.
Russell Wilson is finished.
Yep.
I mean, Lamar Jackson's look like trash.
Well, I don't think Lamar Jackson's played as bad as those guys.
No, but
yeah.
I'm just saying the quarterback play in general is
And
not
Lamar
that
Jackson's
high.
got nothing around him.
Nothing.
He doesn't.
But I will
this
say
is the Ultimate Cleveland
Yeah.
Sports Show, and I didn't want to take us too far
hi.
down that
Ultimate
rabbit hole.
is-
Oh, hi, welcome.
But ultimately, where I wanted to go was that win by the Browns looks even better to me because
Beautiful.
that
Yeah.
Bucs defense is legit, and it's still freaking Tom Brady.
Yeah, but he wasn't
can
going to lose
still
2 of
do
those
it.
against bad teams like us. Like, we're not a great team. He was good. He wasn't going to lose to us and the Saints, I felt like. That's why I was more confident.
And
That-
the Rams.
and the
He
Rams.
came back against the Rams and the Saints, but
Yeah.
he couldn't do it against us.
that win is the only thing we can hang our hat on is saying why we think they can.
Well,
beat
that's
the
not
Bengals.
true.
You're right. Well,
They
there
beat
are
the
other things,
Bengals,
but
I'm
who are
saying
much better than the
this
Buccaneers.
new Bengals.
Yeah,
That's the only reason.
We're going to talk a lot about the Bengals-Browns matchup.
Yeah.
The recent history of this matchup is crazy. It's
weird.
It's one-sided, and you can't say that about a Browns matchup against anybody in the division. That's
Yeah.
someone that they see twice a year. But the numbers don't lie. They're 7-2 in their last 9 games against the Bengals, and that includes wins by Hugh Jackson, Greg Williams, Freddie Kitchens, and Kevin Stefanski.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they've got to be the only team that all 4 of those coaches beat.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hugh Jackson had, like, what, 2
And
wins?
if you go back,
He only had 1 win, right? Hugh Jackson had 1 win.
No, he had
Well,
more than one.
he had 1 win in that season.
Yeah.
and if you
You know,
go back,
he was fired into the 18 season, and he had a couple of wins. He was 2-3.
I believe Mike Pettin got a win in Cincinnati when Brian Hoyer was there.
maybe.
To put him at 7-4 in October.
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to talk about that. Clay Matthews is on the show today.
Nice.
He is.
I love Clay
The great
Matthews.
one.
He was one of my favorite players when I was a kid. He looked like Tarzan, and he played like Tarzan.
Mm-hmm.
He was just incredible. Of course, Jen Matthews joins us every other week with Browns trivia. She'll ask trivia questions about the Browns' upcoming opponent, which is the
Yeah.
Bengals. And I'm glad that Clay's going to be along with her
Right.
dad, because I hope some of the games involved him. He
Sure.
played
The
some
game
epic games
is
against
heavily
the
involved
Bengals.
with Clay Jr.,
Yeah.
by the way.
By the way, why is Mike
But-
cutting stickers here? What is
I
happening?
don't know what he's doing over there.
I'm crafting for a project after this.
It looks like he's cutting school pictures.
Is it
for aunts
bothering
and
you that
uncles.
much?
I'm just curious.
I think it's
That's not bothering me at all.
I
I'm
think
just-
it's
I'm
totally.
fascinated.
I
Like,
think it's
what is
totally
Mike
cool
doing here?
that he's knitting a sweater, making a
on brand. I'm crafting.
a bulletin board, and he's just saying,
You know, Mike
Lisa,
is a creative soul.
you
He is.
can't bottle
right?
that.
And he's
No, you
at
can't.
his most
Where?
comfortable
Gotta let
when
us.
he's
Gotta stay
creative.
busy. You know what I mean?
Wait,
So
Jay,
keep
before
doing
before
you.
you go on,
Yeah.
speaking of Polk and Clay Matthews Jr.,
Yes.
Mike, you had mentioned Masters of the Gridiron.
Yes.
Well, we all watched it this morning.
No, you
Good.
didn't.
It's
Myself,
about time.
Anthony Earl, we had a...
The whole thing?
It's 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only 15 minutes.
It's
about
short.
time.
It is a very short.
I've actually never seen it.
I didn't know it was that
It's
short.
shameful.
It's on YouTube. Listen,
What-
we have questions we need to ask about this because
Well, you'll have to ask them because none of
It
us have
is.
seen it, I don't think.
I
well,
see. I don't
everything
know what
Polk
that
said
is.
about it was spot on. It is
Yeah.
the best, terrible, horrendous.
It is.
It'll make you want to gouge your eyes out, but laugh.
I have a
It was
lot of thoughts on it.
hysterically bad in a good way.
Wow.
It
And
was awesome.
I wonder if we could get the rights to roll all 15 minutes of it on our show.
Yeah. It's
I think our fans would like
Mike.
to see it.
Mike Babb and his wife own it. I don't think that they would mind so much if we aired it. I don't think that
No.
like Cinemax
We
is
could ask
knocking down
Clay
the
if he
door
could
or
reach out
anything.
to Mike and his wife.
They're not like we have a deal with Netflix. It's exclusive. Like it's on YouTube. I think I put it
By
up.
the way, Mike Polk is the only person on the planet that would know who owns the rights to it.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Which is
It's
great.
great though. We'll talk about it. It's,
Aditi's going to be on the show. We'll get her thoughts, her wrap-up thoughts on Sunday's game.
She was
of course,
great.
Works
Yeah.
sideline. She did a great job.
Yep.
She did a great job.
She did.
She was so nervous about how this was going to be handled with the
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson thing. It really, guys, became a non-story
it
because
was a non-story.
there was no fans.
Nobody
There
really
were
know.
no
I think it's
fans.
going to be significantly worse this week.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
this
totally.
will be way
Yeah.
worse because it's
Yeah.
in the division. The place will be packed.
It'll
They
be his
hate us.
worst.
They hate
It'll
us.
be his
Yeah.
worst game of the year. Like probably total coming back. I mean, this will be his
Maybe
worst.
Pittsburgh.
No, because they got the Ben history. So
Yeah, they
that's,
gotta be
it's too
careful
hypocritical.
throwing
Yeah, but all fans are hypocrites. We're all hypocrites.
Yeah,
It's
but
just gonna hurt. It's gonna sound not as
The
bad.
Bengals have Joe Mixon. I mean,
it will sound worse.
It'll sound worse
We
coming
have
from
to remind-
Cincinnati because
Yeah.
they've got Joe Burrow like the Boy Scout nicest quarterback of all
Guy's
time.
never done anything wrong.
He's like, just like
He yells
giving
old ladies across the
He's just
street.
giving turkeys to people in the stand on Thanksgiving. and
I don't you feel like this is kind of disrespectful if you are a lower income individual, right,
Mm-hmm.
you're handing out turkeys, how do you assume that person has a stove and or gas or electric?
Give them a cooked turkey.
Yeah.
So cook a turkey
Well, hopefully,
with the side.
maybe you know someone that does have a cooking facility.
Here, have this chore.
Yeah, here.
I'd be like, can I get
And
a
here's
prime rib
the basket
instead?
of my laundry,
I
too.
know.
I'm picking
Turkey
up
sucks.
Thursday.
This is the worst. This is what you're giving me.
Are there no sides?
Cole wants athletes from now on to just give out prime rib.
Prime rib or rent out a restaurant and say we're gonna have y'all eat whatever y'all want for 3 hours.
Okay.
Well, now that's,
Little Chinese buffet. How
That's
about
what,
that?
what else is the name of that restaurant
That sounds healthy.
in Ohio City? Town Hall does that.
Yes.
And I saw that Myles Garrett and his mom were down there this year. He always gets a lot of Browns. He had some bucket
like that.
players, I think. And they opened the joint up, and it's free food, free eating for anybody that wants to come there all day.
That's what you need.
They
And
don't
I've
even-
helped dish out those meals, so I've eaten one before.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Yep.
I mean, their food is really good. Okay, so let's get into the show. And we're talking about the Bengals and the Browns, obviously. We talked a little bit about the domination. I mentioned they're 7-2 in their last 9 against the Stripes. I don't even know how that's a thing. But this Bengals team has been very, very good for four of those games. I can look at 4 of the games total this year. It was a good Bengals team they beat this year.
Yeah, 2 of the games. Last year they
Last year, the first one
and
was
this year
really
the first
good.
one. So it's 2 games.
And 2 years ago, they weren't a bad team.
No, they were. It was Burrow's rookie year. They finished with the 5th worst record in the league.
Oh, they did? I thought they were better than that.
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
That's why they got chased.
Yeah,
why they
and he
got
got
chased,
he
So
got hurt.
I have the numbers.
He got hurt, yeah.
Stefanski is 4-1 against Cincinnati. He lost his first game, 35-30. That was in September of 2020. Then he won 37-34. That was at Cincinnati. That was in 2020 as well. 21, 41-17. That to me is the most impressive Browns victory that we've seen in a number of years. In my view.
Stefanski hasn't lost to the Bengals.
He lost in
Because Joe Burrow hasn't beaten the Browns.
Maybe
He
was Joe
lost
Burrow not playing
September
in that game?
17th of 2020.
Maybe he wasn't.
35-30
Maybe he
at
was out
home.
by then.
No, that was his rookie year.
No, what I'm saying is, was he injured by that point?
No.
Okay.
Well, he didn't play in the game when Case Keenum played.
No, Burrow.
Right, but the Browns won that game.
Yeah, they did. September 17th, 2020, the Bengals beat the Browns 35-30.
I don't have all this memorized. I was just trying to be helpful.
But
He's like, I was
in the
couponing.
second game, in October, in Cincinnati, the Browns won. The Browns won in Cincinnati last year. That was the last game of the year, and they were playing most of their backups.
No. I thought the win in Cincinnati was the first one last year, against Burrow and the starters.
You're right, it was 41-17.
Right.
Yeah, and then they won 32-13 in Cincinnati this year. Some of these wins aren't even close.
No,
Right.
at home this year.
At home, that was
At home. I'm sorry, at Cleveland.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of these games aren't even close.
Right.
No, they haven't been.
19 points this year, 24 points last year at Cincinnati. What the hell is it with this? How are they beating a really good... Is it kind of like the Bengals and the Chiefs gimmick, where the Chiefs have lost like 2 games not to the Bengals over the last 2 years, but they're now 0-3 against the Bengals in 2022?
The reason why the Browns play the reason why Browns match up very well with the Bengals is the Bengals really don't they kind of become the Browns. They don't stick to what they should do. Like in this game, I think they have a pronounced advantage up front. I think if the Bengals came in and said, "Hey, offensively, this is a Mixon P. Ryan game. Screens, we're gonna move the sticks. We take an additional couple of deep shots. But other than that, it's handoff game because they can't stop us. But it's so doggone hard to have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd
And ignore them.
Why are they able to ignore it? Why is that just against us?
The Chargers did it.
But why? Yeah. So why with just us are the Bengals just like we just can't stick to the game plan? We don't know it works with everybody else, but why do we do that to them?
Because it's a divisional game and they're putting too much pressure on themselves?
Well, it's hard in general because sometimes that passing attack game is what you should do. Like if you're watching them play the Chiefs, they match up very well against the Chiefs, right?
Yeah.
Because the Chiefs know that they can score. They can score right with you. So it ain't no like, is the Chiefs are playing the Browns? It's a methodical game. The Browns are going to play keep away. And Burrow, you got Patrick Mahomes, who senses that. He's like, if you give me the ball with 2 minutes left, you're dead.
Right.
The Bengals, they don't play into that. And they have 2 defensive ends that can get after them. But my thing is, sometimes the Bengals just don't play up to what they're supposed to against the Browns. And maybe it was one of those things where they think they should beat the Browns. Or,
they take them lightly.
It's like,
maybe they look past
the Browns. We should be able to win.
Hey, we have some, real quick before you go, Jay, I just want to clarify something you said earlier.
Yeah.
The Browns have won
5 in a row against the
5 in a
Bengals.
row.
So they did beat them 30.
35-30 was a Browns win.
Browns.
Stefanski has
Somehow
not,
I looked it up as a loss, so it's 5 in a row.
It's 5 in a
That's
5 in a row. 8 of the last 9. Stefanski has not lost to the
Yeah.
Bengals.
That's
What's
unbelievable.
funny is before that, the Bengals had beaten the Browns 8 in a row.
Right.
Before the 8
I remember that.
Well, those were the Browns. That's when the Browns were awful.
Right.
Some of these wins have come against good Cincinnati teams.
So there's a couple of things that, to me, of why the Browns have had success. And this game in particular, and we were talking before the show, I think this would be the most impressive regular season win of the Stefanski era. Not necessarily the most important, because you beat the Steelers to get into the playoff, but that was a Steeler team that was playing
Steelers
backups.
in a playoff game.
No,
too.
I'm saying regular season.
Regular season.
Regular
okay.
season game.
Yeah.
So the best wins of the Stefanski era to me are the 2 wins against the Bengals. The one first last year, the first one this year. The win over the Titans in 2020 was a really good win. That was a really good Titans team.
It was.
And that led their way to getting into the playoffs, eventually beating the Steelers. So first of all, there's a couple of reasons why personally, I think it's just that they've gotten these 2 wins. Some of it's just, it's football, one team beats the other. But here's a couple of things. The Browns have had a big advantage over the Bengals in the trenches. That's been a big edge that the Browns have had in these matchups. And this, to me, is the first time they've played where the Browns do not have that edge. The Bengals' offensive line, which was horrible last year, and was horrible to start this season because they had 4 new starters, is now playing very well.
Right.
If you look at through starting week 4 or 5, I bet you they're a top 15 offensive line. If you look at the analytics, because they're not giving up many sacks anymore. Early in the season, they were giving up a ton of sacks just like last year. It's not happening. The Chiefs barely touched Joe Burrow the whole game. The Steelers, remember, first time the Bengals played the Steelers killed Burrow. Second time, they barely touched him. So that's the difference.
Whereas we got considerably worse since we played them last in the offensive line department.
Yes, the Bengals offensive line got better. Let's look at the other way. When the Browns played the Bengals the first time this year, the Bengals did not have DJ Reader, who is one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in the league.
They were also without Chase, weren't they?
They were also without Chase.
To me, that's the difference.
They have both of those guys back.
Yeah.
They also have Mixon back. Mixon did play in that first game.
He did play.
But he is back, although Samaje Perine.
They just put a lid on Chase, or on Mixon.
Somehow.
The next week he went for
did.
like 250.
Right, they didn't run. So here's the thing. And the Browns' offensive line, I think we'd all agree, is playing its worst football in years, the last few weeks.
Last couple of years.
They are very beat up, too.
Yeah,
though.
they're
Right?
beat up.
Of course, there's reasons for it.
Right.
But they're still not playing nearly as well as they did last
So when
time.
I look at it, I see the Bengals D-line against the Browns O-line, which has always been an advantage for the Browns, is, in my opinion, an advantage for the Bengals.
Yeah.
I see the Bengals O-line versus the Browns D-line. Even with the Browns D-line struggles, that's been an advantage. Maybe slight for the Browns,
Sure.
but at least they had Myles Garrett, and the Bengals O-line is terrible. Now I think it's an advantage for the Bengals.
You do.
I do. There's nothing to point to for the Browns to win this game beyond they've had
History.
their number.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at how Deshaun Watson played Sunday
Right.
in Houston.
Right.
Like, you said it on the call this
That
morning.
didn't
and
inspire confidence in you?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. On the surface, it sounds like we're nuts.
Yeah.
But in this moment, this team's just better with Jacoby at quarterback.
Yeah.
And you can throw arrows and darts all you want. I'm not saying that Jacoby's a better quarterback.
No.
I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is he fits in like a well-oiled part, and the machine moves. And then you take the biggest part of that machine in, and you throw a dry piece in that hasn't seen oil in 2 years, and the machine breaks down.
I don't think it's a bad argument. I disagree. I understand the argument, certainly based on what Deshaun Watson played like in the first game.
That's
It's
all I'm
hard to-
judging it on, by the way.
Obviously, you have to
don't
play.
hit me up and say, well, Crawford just said that Watson's not as good as Jacoby.
No.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying right
No,
now.
nobody thinks you're saying
And you
in
have to
this
play
moment-
Watson because you got to get him ready
Of
for next year.
course you have to.
You have to play him. There's no.
And I'm not
there's no other-
suggesting that they don't,
Right.
but
I get what
my
you're
eye
saying.
test says our offense, and I can only imagine what Jacoby's thinking while the defense and special teams are balling out. He has to be watching this going, what in the hell am I looking at? And where was that when I was out there?
Right.
They played like ass when he was out there.
Yeah, I just think Watson ultimately still has that upside that Brissett doesn't have.
I agree with that.
And so that's why I would.
How long is it going to take him, though?
I don't know.
I'll compare it to running a maze. If you're running a maze in the dark and Jacoby Brissett has already ran the maze and has a torch, and you ask him to run it again and race Deshaun Watson, he's going to beat Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Because he's already been through the maze. He knows, even he's not more athletic.
Right.
This metaphor is very vivid, and I like it.
I like it too.
It's
I
really
can
good.
see it happening in real time.
Right.
Two other things about this matchup to look out for, right? Number one, we've complained a lot that the Browns play a lot of zone, right? They don't man-to-man.
Right.
Against the Bengals, you have to play zone. And that's part of the reason.
They'll
The
kill you if you
Chiefs
cover.
play all man. You can't man up against the Bengals receiving
Not
corps.
for an entire game.
Nobody can do it.
No.
There's no group of corners that are good enough consistently if you're playing man, and they're not as good against zone.
We don't think the Browns are going to do that, though.
If you look at Burrow's numbers against man, it's absurd. It's absurd. His run numbers.
He just picks them apart.
And another thing, in both of the two, in the win last year in Cincinnati, and the win earlier this year in Cleveland, the Bengals had a turnover on their first possession.
You're right.
Which really got the
Sets the
momentum going for the Browns.
2 games ago, it was after a wonderful drive by
Right.
the Bengals. They got all the way to the doorstep,
And-
Yep.
and Denzel stepped in
Pick
front
six.
and took the pick six.
Yeah, we just
100.
need that to happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can get that to happen again, we're all set. I'm with you, Bull. I don't see a way in that world.
And
that
by the way,
Browns go down
all
there
of
and
that
win.
being said, I think all the advantages are for the Bengals. I still think it's a toss-up game.
I agree.
Well, it's a divisional game.
Because it's a divisional game, and there's something to be said in your head. Now, Burrow's probably as mentally tough as anybody, but if they make a mistake early, you start thinking, oh, we can't get it right against
Burrow's
this
so
team.
good, man.
Yeah. I don't think he's
watched him
intimidated by
Sunday.
it.
No, I don't think
You
he's
know, but some of the
intimidated.
other players might be. They might believe in that hex.
Yeah.
I believe.
I think they're really anxious to put that monkey to get the monkey not just off the bat, but to kill it.
They don't want to hear about it anymore.
They don't.
If the Browns win, it cements the Browns own the Bengals.
They
It
own,
cements
they're
it.
living in their head
It
right
cements
now.
it.
Yeah.
If the Bengals win, then it goes away.
And by the way, if the Browns win, we talk about their playoff chances
Yeah.
every week. They're still at 3%. I'm not sure how, but they're still at, I thought after a win they would go up. It didn't work out that way. They're still mathematically at 3%. If they win, they go up to 14%.
Hey.
And then
Right.
when you start looking down the road, Baltimore, who knows with Lamar?
Right.
And the other 4 games are extremely winnable. Now,
He's drinking
as G. Bush
Kool-Aid.
is saying,
Have some
6-0 Kool-Aid.
Have that Kool-Aid.
All I'm going to say to remind you is that was the sourest drink of Kool-Aid I've ever had.
And it was lukewarm too.
Yeah, it
It
was in
was
the sun.
warm.
It was out in the
It
sun.
was- there was no sugar in it.
And
It was
I had to-
NutraSweet.
I had to use
Not even Nutri-Sweet.
I had to
Yeah.
use natural sweeteners like random honey and lemon.
Oh,
and by the
no.
way, that is not a substitute. Don't invite me over your house and put honey on something.
People do that
and
to
be
you.
like, yeah, this is a natural. No snack should be natural.
That's not a friend.
Snacks are fruit snacks.
Yes.
Snacks are chips and cookies and
Absolutely.
pies.
And they have
invite-
real sugar
Artificial.
and
I used to always
Chemicals.
for
Chemicals.
ice cream.
Hey, you know, me and Bull be mad. They like, we're gonna have a pizza party. We get there for school. I done been good all damn 9 weeks.
Yep.
And you tell me we got a pizza party and you give me 1 slice of cheese pizza.
Yeah, that's
Where's
inappropriate.
the meat at? Just
Wrong.
because Susie don't
Where's
want
the
no
reward?
I want
Why
cheese.
they even read these books?
Only cheese, no veg. What I
Yeah,
eat
bleep
meat
Susie. Bleep her.
It is Susie.
and a handful of
By
popcorn.
the way, I'm starving. I did not eat it.
I know, don't buy
Me
you
either.
pizza right now. I think we all could eat
I
a slice.
usually eat breakfast. I did not eat
Is it
breakfast
anybody's
today.
I don't
birthday?
know. You gonna be okay?
No birthday.
I think I'll make
No
it, but I'm
birthday.
Can we
hungry.
get can we
we
get
get
a
me a
Built
pizza?
Bar? Can we get a Built Bar out here for
I'd
a
rather
ball?
have a pizza.
Yeah,
Built Bar's
Bull,
all
you know
good.
what? It is on you for not eating your Built Bar this morning because as we've
know.
told you time and time before, not only is Built Bar delicious, it sticks to your ribs, fills you up. You won't be hungry for 4
I
hours.
had 2 on the way
I
here.
went to the dentist this morning for my cleaning. I don't like to eat in the
Yeah, you
morning.
know what,
like
to
that.
be
I thought
honest,
your teeth looked cleaner today.
Of
a
course.
Built
I
Bar before
wasn't
the
sure
dentist
why, but now
is
I
a tough
know.
look.
I had 2 Built Bars on the way here. I don't
Yeah.
need to eat until Saturday.
No. And do you notice Polk's looking extra bulky
Polk's
today?
on the
biceps
Built Bar
popping out of
diet.
his
Thank
shirt.
you.
That's why he's cutting stickers on set for a
Yep,
different
that's
show
my
not
workout.
ours. trying to flex. And if you want to flex just like Mr. Polk at tonight, are you going to the Cavs game tonight, Polk?
No, I can't. I got plans. But I'm watching.
Plans, but he'll be watching. So if you want to be Mike Polk impersonator, use promo code LOCKDOWN15, get 15% off your Built Bars, and you could be jacked like Mr. Polk.
By the way, I'm at the dentist. Shout out to Kristen, who's my dental hygienist. She's awesome.
She did a great job.
Love
this. They look great.
Love her work.
And then my doctor is Dr. Dowd. So my dentist.
Dr. what?
Dr. Dowd.
Okay, Dr. Dowd. Great name.
She is this tiny little woman.
Yeah.
She's awesome. My favorite dentist I've ever had. And one of my good friends was my dentist in New Jersey. I like her much better.
Oh, there it is.
Zoom in for that close up.
Not bad. Not bad.
No, I
but
think
anyway, grubby beard. So she comes in, and I hadn't seen her, I hadn't been there like 4. I go every 3 months normally, but because of COVID, I had to push back.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. You do
every
4
3
cleanings
months?
a year?
Yeah, I got gum issues.
Oh,
I want that
Doesn't
quote,
matter.
too.
I like how he
I got
I
gum issues.
floss and do the water pick.
You know what?
3 times a day.
It's genetic.
I brush
People
3
just
times
get a bad
There's
hand.
nothing I can do.
It's not fair.
So so I hadn't seen my doctor in like it's probably been like 5 months since I seen her.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm the tiniest thing. Like she's probably like 4'10".
oh
Right.
wow.
And probably like is like 80 pounds or something.
Jeez.
But
She rappels down into your
came
mouth.
in today and
Goes in there with like a miner's hat on.
and she had a pregnant belly. But I'm like, I ain't saying.
Yeah,
like,
don't.
Can't
It's
risk
the
it.
most obvious pregnant woman because she was the tiniest woman.
Still can't risk
Yeah,
it.
And I was
can't
like,
say
I'm not
anything.
saying anything.
Could be a
Just
tumor.
ask anything big going on in your life?
Well, she says to me, she goes, well, next time you come, I'm going to be on maternity leave. You might see my husband.
Still not safe.
And I was like, oh, I'm glad you told me that because I didn't want to ask.
I still
She started laughing.
How far along is she? Probably like 8 months?
8 months.
Yeah.
She's doing January.
I love that Bull follows that etiquette because I
will
have done
never.
that before.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
And you, for the rest of your life, that relationship with the person is done.
Screwed.
It's
Yeah.
done.
Screwed.
We had someone
You
in
can
here
play
once
nice.
that was pregnant, but I wasn't asking her.
You can't.
Yeah.
No
I mean, the
chance.
baby can. There can be an arm hanging out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm
You can't
still just
say
like,
anything.
I'm like, not risking
You
it.
can't say anything.
Might just be
Yes.
gas.
Hey, I don't look at no woman below the neck.
Yeah,
It
don't
stops
even look.
right here.
That's not true.
They got invisible bodies.
not
As
true.
far as
Right.
I'm concerned,
That is false.
Hey, listen. Hey, allegedly.
That's the way you got to roll, though, man. Because you cannot. That's one of the worst mistakes you can make. That's
Oh
the
my
biggest
God.
Can't be
social
doing
faux
that.
pas you can make.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
right.
saying, what do you
Tell
expect?
said something.
I seen
Slap.
I seen a doctor take an L the wrong way. He's like, "Hey, I like your pants." She was like, "Why are you looking at my pants?"
You can't.
I said, "That's a good question."
Everybody.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
All right,
keep
so
your eyes up,
we kicked
everyone.
around this Bengals-Browns dominance, but
Yeah.
Mike, you haven't really weighed in a lot on that.
I think it's a statistical anomaly for the
do?
most part. I really do. I
There's
think
going
it's
to be a
math.
regression to the mean.
I do. I think that, I think eventually it'll end up evening out. I think right now we have, but I just, I think that I don't believe in hexes. I don't believe that we actually have some secret sauce against one particular team. I think that it has been an impressive run, and it's crazy, especially if you look at the manner in which we've dominated it for the most part.
Especially that they went to the Super Bowl last
Yes,
year.
exactly. This isn't but
And almost won the Super Bowl.
I just feel that these things all even out. And I agree with Bull, though. There's so many factors in here that we just aren't aware of. We don't know what Deshaun's going to look like in this next game.
Right.
So he might. Nothing showed us that he's going to come and ball out or anything like that. I think it's going to be a slow progression. Like he said, I think he's going to get through the maze a little bit faster this time with his torch. Still loving that metaphor. He's going to be like, oh yeah, turn left here.
Yeah.
Last time I hit a wall here, I should go this way instead.
Right.
But it's still going to be. He still doesn't know his way through that maze yet, and we're not going to see him dashing through it.
Yeah, if
It
he
is a
plays
good
like
metaphor. It's very
if he
perfect.
plays anywhere close to the way he did last week, they got no chance.
Right.
I know you guys kicked it over yesterday, I'm sure. I was not here. I'll just throw my 2 cents in.
Yeah.
I was, we talked earlier in the week.
Yeah.
What kind of rust do we expect?
Yeah.
I said he's going to be rusty. He hasn't played in 2 years,
Yeah.
of course. I didn't think he was going to be this bad.
Yeah.
He was worse than I thought he was going to be
Yeah.
by a long,
Oh, I mean,
long
and
shot.
you and I were the only ones saying he was going to be rusty. Everybody else was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, G. Bush
And
said no rust.
No
I'll tell you
way
why.
could we
I
have
said,
possibly thought he'd be that bad.
Tops halftime.
That's
Yeah,
just, I mean,
tops.
you can't really play any worse than that.
You can't.
You know what?
I mean,
I
you
think
just can't.
I think it was so much of it was mental. Think about the 2 years of the news and everything he's been hearing and
Right.
all these fans and all the expectations and how many people he thinks hate him and he wants to be loved and he thinks that he got screwed over and he thinks that in all these things crashing down with you, trying to remember how to play football at the highest level. And I think that we found out he's human.
When
in
does
the
that
same way
disappear, Mike, in your mind?
I think
like, when does that become the
there's
normal
a reason,
background noise?
You know this. There's a reason that they went and got this dude, this guy, and they sacrificed so much for him, including some of the moral integrity of their fan base, according to many. And that's because he is one of the elite performers who can actually do this at this level and take you to a Super Bowl. And I think that he will eventually recall that, but I think it's a process.
Here's what's interesting to me, and I'm not suggesting for a second that this is going to happen, but it certainly has to be thrown into the conversation. Because I think you're right. The cost to get him was immense. Perhaps as much, I think very easily, as much as the price to get any player in the history of the sport. Mm-hmm. When you think of the draft picks, the money, and the moral integrity that they gave away to get him. What's interesting to me is, and someone brought this up originally to me 2 weeks ago, and I dismissed it. I'm like, there's not a chance. But after watching him Sunday, I'm like, well, I guess there's always a chance. The NFL, crazy things happen in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Players who could ball and were Pro Bowlers, all of a sudden are out of the league.
Right.
We've seen that happen with RG3. Now, granted, his was an injury, but Deshaun Watson has had that same injury twice.
Yeah.
But my buddy said, what if he's Russell Wilson? Now, in Russell's case, I think his decline was age.
I just had a chill go down my back when you said that.
But you know what? At the same time, when we last saw Russell Wilson, he looked like Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he looked good.
And a lot has happened in the offseason, and all of a sudden, this dude just forgot how to play. And I know he's a couple years older than Russ, but we have to remember that guys like RG3 and Colin Kaepernick, now he had some extenuating circumstances too, but who were competing and succeeding at a very high level in this league, and you blink and they're gone.
Jay, anything's possible. What I would say, though,
I just hope that's not him.
I don't think any of those comparisons are applicable because RG3 and Colin Kaepernick were flashes in the pan. Now, doesn't mean that they couldn't have stayed in the league, but they weren't even close, in my opinion,
No, but
talent-wise.
they did have, it was more than, they did it for more than one season.
RG3 was one season. And then he
One
got hurt.
great elite season, and then he had the injury.
And Kaepernick had one good season, really.
He was a starter for a number of years, though, Bull. I mean,
was he?
Yeah.
How many years was he a starter? Let's look it up.
Maybe
I don't think he was a starter
I think
that long.
3 years.
But he
I would
wasn't
say
that
3
good
years.
after that first year. You know, Deshaun Watson.
I'm not. And by the way, Bull,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I know you're not saying it's going to happen.
Pretending
I'm just
that's
saying,
going
we're
to
just
happen.
talking about our nightmare scenario.
Anything's possible.
Because that's what Cleveland fans do.
Obviously, Russell Wilson is older than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
If Deshaun Watson were
But you know
33,
what?
34, I'd be more concerned
My buddy
about
framed
that.
the argument like this. He said, Russell's, I don't know if this is true, I didn't look it up. He said, Russell's 13 years younger than Tom Brady. Now, I know everybody ages differently.
Yeah.
And so, because I said, well, Russell's getting old. And that's when he said, he's 13 years younger than Tom Brady. And I'm like, God damn. And
That is
then
different.
I'm watching the Manning cast for a bit. And I'm thinking, Eli's younger than Tom.
Yeah.
And Tom's won a couple Super Bowls since Eli's retired.
I think we have to stop using him as a comparison to anything.
Tom Brady's
Anybody,
phenomenal.
right?
Anyone.
I know. But my point is,
Although
like,
he's older than me.
But here's why I say this. My buddy was saying, I'm not sure that what we're seeing with Russell is age. I think it's
He
like
lost it.
Baker. I think it's up here. And so
Well, we were seeing a decline from Russell Wilson last year.
Russell was good last year. What were Russell Wilson's numbers last year? Touchdowns to picks.
He was okay last
He had a
year.
terrible offensive line,
The
which is
second
why
half,
he wanted out.
The second half of last year, and by the way, he had really good weapons.
Well, he had
He
a
had
good,
great wide
he had a good
receivers.
wide receiver. He
He
could
had
have
two
used,
good wide receivers.
Yeah, I haven't been impressed with their running game in a long time.
Yeah,
they were one-dimensional.
Their
and I
running
think
game is, well, their running game is awesome now with Kenneth Walker.
Yeah,
but,
no. But
You
I'm
ready
talking
for
about
stats
the last
from
couple
last year?
years.
Yeah.
The numbers are impressive,
He had a good year.
but they weren't good. He had 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Okay, that's by any standard, that's a good year.
Yeah.
Look at, Mike,
yeah.
take a look at like the last 8-9 games.
Yeah,
last
no, I
year.
know. It
He
was
terrible.
It was not,
he was not good the second half of the season.
Then
Not
read
great.
us all
Also,
Colin
we have
Kaepernick
Aditi.
stats ever since he got in the league. We want all this stuff right now, Mike.
Mike can get him. No,
Real
but
quick,
my
real quick.
point is,
So-
my buddy said, I don't know with
Jay-
Russ that it's age. It could be.
Yeah, it could be in the head.
everything that he went through. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
To Bull's point, no, his last 4 games. Oh, no, I'm looking at it backwards.
Yeah.
No, he was fine. He had.
I mean, if you're 25-6, you had a good year. That's not a good year. That's
in
a,
his,
that's
in
a
his
really
final
good
3
year.
games, he threw 9 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yeah, so he was great.
Can't
So,
complain.
but here's my point.
Wasn't
My
great.
buddy
I
was
watched
making
it,
the
but-
case that Russell went through a lot in the offseason, a whole lot. And he opened by going back to Seattle, and it didn't go well. And my buddy said He responded accordingly and has folded like an accordion.
Yeah.
And then he brought up the Baker Mayfield comparison. He said, just like your buddy Baker. Baker goes to Carolina.
Then we come and get him.
Talking his shit with the, talking his trash with the.
That's better. Cleaned it up.
Baker Unleashed and all that nonsense.
Out of here.
And he goes, he actually balled out, proving that he can still play. At the end of the game, he brought them back. And then they lost on a 58-yard field goal, and your boy folded like an accordion.
He's broken.
And he says it's all up here.
Anything's possible. Nobody can judge. Nobody knows what's going on in somebody's head, right? That could negatively affect him forever. Maybe he's not going to be the same player because of that.
I just think
entirely
it's worth
possible.
discussing.
I would argue that even Russell Wilson included, that Deshaun Watson is way more talented than these other guys we've mentioned, and I think he's more talented than Russell Wilson by a good deal.
You do?
I do. Even because Russell Wilson got brought into a team that had an elite defense and an elite running game when he first came there. Was a soft start for him.
Let me ask Aditi. Aditi, judging just the resumes for all their careers, and I know Russell's got a bigger resume and he won a Super Bowl. Do you agree with what Bull just said, that he believes Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson? Not necessarily now, but better at his peak than Russell was at his peak. Because I don't believe that.
I think you don't believe that?
I don't. No.
I think if you asked every NFL team, off the field stuff aside, if that didn't exist,
right?
If you asked every NFL team, would you rather have Deshaun Watson at 26 or Russell Wilson at 26? I don't think there's a team that would take Russell Wilson. I don't know that for a fact, but I bet you that's true. Didi?
Here's what I'd say, guys. I think that, covering this league for 15 years, I think evaluating a quarterback in a silo is probably, or a vacuum, I don't know what the right phrase is there.
Yeah,
it's hard.
It's probably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, it is for sure.
When you sit here, it's, Russell Wilson played with an amazing defense. And I'll just say this, it's not even about the defense and the run game and the O-line. It's the way an offense can play based on the way a defense plays, or the way a defense can play based on the way an offense plays. I'll go back a couple weeks. I had the Dolphins and the Texans, and the Dolphins defensive coordinator, Josh Boyer, is talking about how he doesn't need to be so aggressive on defense 100%. Because he's playing with an offense that can score 40 points a game, 30 to 40 points a game. And so what you call, what you do, again, it's all connected. It's all interconnected.
I know, Aditi, that you're absolutely right, and it is an unfair question. It's just one of these arguments that sports fans always have. So
this is kind of like saying, okay, let's compare Terry Bradshaw to Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
let's
it doesn't
compare
work.
Jim Brown
it doesn't
to
work.
Nick
Because
Chubb.
now you're crossing
errors.
errors.
Doesn't make sense.
But what about skill sets? Like, I think as seasoned professionals that we all are, we can, with our eyes, assess a player's skill set.
I don't actually think it's close between a lot of them.
Now, as I'm framing this argument, I'm going to say, because now I'm trying to take all the weird factors out.
Right.
The fact that Deshaun hasn't had great talent around him.
Well, that's what PFF does, essentially.
Right. So the skill sets themselves, and Russell, Russell was an MVP candidate not that long ago.
No,
so
he's never got an MVP vote.
No, but he was a candidate. He was a candidate. I think everybody knows that he was in the mix. So I think if you just assess it on just skill set, I probably would say I think Deshaun Watson's skill set is better than Russell's overall, but I don't think it's by a mile. Am I wrong?
Sure, I think that's fair, right? I think that he's got a great touch pass, which he told us he learned from Matt Ryan when he was a ball boy back in Flowery Branch, right? He's a great anticipation thrower. He can use his legs. All of these things, yes, but reading a defense is so much about playing quarterback. So that's like a mental part, rallying your teammates around you, making the right reads, making the right calls, getting people that play next to you to play better. Like, all of that goes into the evaluation of the position of quarterback. So, Jay, while I respect your saying that it's only the physical, it's not only about the physical. If it was only about the physical, Ryan Leaf would have been just as good as Peyton Manning.
I said skill set, and to me, certainly reading the defense is absolutely a tool in a quarterback's box that he needs to have. Now, I do think Russell Wilson is better at reading defenses, going through his progressions, finding the right read. I don't know about Deshaun Watson, and I'll.
Do we know that?
I'll ask you that.
How would we know that?
I'm just. I don't. I'm not.
I don't know that I've watched enough.
Bull, I'm not stating
Yeah.
it definitively. I'm just
Yeah.
saying with my eyes. I've watched
Yeah.
Russell Wilson for a very long time, and I do think that he understands
that's
defensive
the key,
concepts.
But
Jay.
again,
That-
Russell
this
Wilson's
is
played
where
with
we,
great talent and great coaching. Deshaun Watson hasn't.
Yeah, I don't know. Again,
Listen
I'm
to
not
what
saying
Jay
it
just
definitively.
said. Jay just said that he's watched Russell Wilson for a very long time.
Yes.
We in the football space love youth. We love young rookies. We
do.
love young people on TV. We love youth, but it's the very long time, the experience that matters so much. Whether you're a host or a reporter or an anchor like Jay, who can go back to something he covered 10 years ago and create a connective tissue, or you're a quarterback who has seen every defense there is to see over the last 10 years. And I just feel like, look, Deshaun Watson played on Sunday like a guy who hasn't played in 2 years, which he hasn't.
Tell us
and
more
so
about.
it is
Give us
so
more of your
hard
thoughts
to
on how he
evaluate.
played.
Look, I had a conversation with Pep Hamilton. Pep Hamilton, who of course is the Texans offensive coordinator, came to Houston specifically because he thought he was coaching Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about being snookered, right? He moves his whole family. He enrolls his quarterback son into a Texas high school. He does all of this because he thinks this is the guy that he's coaching. Didn't happen, but he very, very clearly remembered a conversation that he'd had with Deshaun Watson early on, before everything blew up. And by blew up, I mean before he even before Deshaun said that he wanted out of Houston. Forget all of the charges and the allegations. But Pep said at that time, Deshaun Watson was very clearly a top 5 quarterback. But they had a conversation about getting over that hump to be the number 1 quarterback in the league. And what did that look like? And what was that conversation? I'll tell you, it was really, Pep was saying, you've got to learn how to take the check down. That part of being the greatest quarterback is knowing when you need to throw the ball away and live to see another down, or when you need to take the easy completion as opposed to giving everything up for the fireworks. Anyway, that was the conversation they had. They were talking about getting Deshaun to the level where he would be the number 1 or number 2 quarterback instead of the number 5 or number 6. Well, now fast forward to where we are today. Forget getting to the elite level. Right now, Deshaun Watson needs to get back up to speed. I mean,
get to a
I had
Jacoby Brissett
multiple
level.
people text me in the middle of the game on Sunday to say, so when's Kevin putting Jacoby Brissett back in? Because that's how rusty Deshaun Watson was. That's how off Deshaun Watson looked. To sit here and have the conversation about his physical skills right now, I think the conversation really is, how long is it going to take to get up to speed?
Well, let me ask you this, Aditi, because I said this in the morning conversation. I said that if you were to ask a coach right now, based on how much experience in him playing more than Deshaun Watson, I believe wholeheartedly that Jacoby Brissett would give you a better chance in the earlier weeks against the Bengals than Deshaun Watson. And it's not that I don't like Deshaun Watson.
But you still got to play him because you got to get him ready for next year.
I don't disagree. Gee, Lovie Smith said the same thing to us. In our production meeting, Lovie Smith is talking about how well Jacoby played, how well he played against Tampa Bay. And he said, you know what? I think we got lucky. He said, I think it would have been harder to face this guy Brissett, who's playing lights out in Lovey's mind, that it would be harder to face this guy Brissett, that's what he said, than a guy who's been off for 700 days.
Yeah, bring
and
that
he's right.
Ross.
I mean, look, the Browns needed 2 defensive touchdowns and a special teams touchdown to win. If they play the same way on offense Sunday against the Bengals, they're losing by 40.
You're right.
It's just, they've got to be better.
You are right.
I'll give you
But there's
that.
no choice because he's the better player. You have to get him ready for, if the Browns were 7-4 or 8-3, maybe you'd think differently.
Sure.
But you got to
Agreed.
play him because you got to get him ready.
Oh, he can play.
Yes,
right?
and I agree with you 100%, Adam. This is not a question right now of securing your seeding in the playoffs.
Right.
You sure as heck are hoping that you can get into the playoffs.
Sure.
You sure as heck are hoping that Deshaun Watson can lead a 6-0 finish to the season. Am I doing the math of that right? 4, 6, 10.
Yeah,
Yes.
5 games.
You're
5
hoping
games.
Well, 5 left.
He can close
but
out the
total
season.
six.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Well, he had the first win, so
Yes.
you can you hope that he tied it with that guaranteed contract is to Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So they need to get him ready. They cannot wait for the offseason to get him
Aditi,
ready.
speaking of
to play.
5 games, we were trying to figure out why the Browns have won 5 games against Cincinnati in a row, despite the fact that they are clearly the superior team over that length of time.
Well, the Browns were better in 2020.
Can you explain to us, though, how we somehow, do you think it's as I do, sort of a statistical anomaly?
Nobody played Week 17 last year, right? Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, everybody sat. I think Chase sat. But anyway, they all had COVID or they all sat or whatever the reason was. Nobody played Week 17.
They had clinched.
Chase played the first series to break the rookie record.
to get the record.
And everybody else sat.
Overall, why do you think this happens, Aditi?
I mean, I think it's a nice matchup, right? Like, you could go through and you could say that each individual game has something going to it. The previous game last year, the one in Cincinnati, that was the Odell Beckham Jr. drama week, but it was also, the game opened with Denzel Ward having that 99-yard pick six. Nick Chubb had it, and that just like set the tone. If you remember that game, Joe Burrow marched right down the field, no issue, and then all of a sudden Denzel Ward, and that changes the entire shape of the game. I mean, talk about buzzkill and momentum and all of that, and the crowd is taken out of the game immediately. We could go through and do that with all of the last, 6 games and say what it was, but I think in some ways this is just, it's a nice matchup, because the Browns can run the ball and they can keep the ball away from the Bengals, and that limits the Bengals' explosiveness. I think that what the Browns can do up front with Myles Garrett and Clowney is a nice matchup against a Bengals line that historically has struggled and that is still sort of trying to prove that, you know, it's that and then some. The Browns secondary has been a nice matchup when it's been healthy, and that, of course, is a question, has been a nice matchup for a Bengals team that has 3 great receivers. I mean, when you've got Greg Newsome, who is an elite talent playing inside, not everybody's slot corner plays like Greg Newsome does. So in some ways, it's a nice, like, good on good. And that's where it sort of works. But I wouldn't bank on the fact that, the Browns have historically had success against this team, meaning anything.
It's kind of
for a long time, the Steelers historically had success against the Bengals.
I think it gets, I was saying before, Aditi, I think it gets cemented if the Browns win this game. Because the difference to me now is, you're right, in the trenches, the Browns have had the advantage. I no longer think they do. The Bengals' offensive line is significantly better than it's been right now. If you look at them over the last 5, 6, 7 weeks, they're playing at worst like an average offensive line, and that's all they need is an average offensive line with the skill position talent they have. They'll have Chase back. Plus, the Browns' offensive line is playing their worst football in 3-4 years right now. And so those advantages that the Browns have,
they're on their 5th string center. Can we at least address that?
We understand there's reasons for it. The center has turned into a disaster because Pochich was playing great, and Froholt, or Haagen-Dazs as I call him, he can't play.
I think part of his private center is that he's not a center.
Call him that, but
no,
he's not a
that's
center.
anti-Scandinavian.
How admirable it is that he's even doing what he's doing right now.
Let's
but Wyatt Teller's not playing well right now. He must not be 100%
Teller is
right.
not playing well.
He's not playing well.
He has the calf.
So, and they're not getting great tackle play. And the Bengals' defensive line is fully healthy right now. They didn't have DJ Reader, which is a big deal for their first matchup.
For the Monday night.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously the Browns are going to have a massive game on the ground to win, because the way, I think we'd all expect Watson to be better this week, but I don't think anybody's expecting him to be the great player.
I wonder, Bull, and Aditi, you can weigh in on this. I wonder if, in his mind, Stefanski knew that Watson was going to be as bad as he was, because, and I'm just going off the top of my head, I didn't even dive into the numbers. It felt to me like this was one of the more run over pass games that the Browns have had all year.
Right. Well,
in the
but
second
that was the
half,
second half. They had the lead.
They ran the ball 23 times, passed it 8 times in the second half.
Yeah,
second half.
But so at least Stefanski made the adjustment.
Yeah, no. I said this in my hit on the NFL Today at noon on Sunday, that Kevin Stefanski needed to help Deshaun Watson with his play calling. Yeah. So what did that help mean? Relying on the run game and trying to get him easy completions, to get him comfortable and confident again. Look, I'll tell you from my point of view, when I don't do a game for 2 weeks, I feel like I'm rusty. Sure. Tua, who's arguably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league this past year, he missed 2 games because of the concussion, and he said he felt incredibly rusty on a Sunday night. It's just the nature. This guy has sat for 2 years. Yeah. He has not seen a live rush in 2 years. He has not read a live defense in 2 years. I don't care what he was doing with some 30-year-old receivers for 6 weeks, 7 weeks in Berea with his quarterbacks coach Quincy Avery. It's not the same as being on the field and seeing a live rush and seeing a live defense. And all of that coming at you, like this and having to make those decisions. So Kevin certainly was trying to help him. He was trying to get him more comfortable, get him more confident. I think that it helped Watson to be in Houston, a place where he's very, very familiar, where he still has a house up the road, where 18 of his family members were spending the weekend. I think, and I had this conversation with the great Jake Trotter, who of course writes for ESPN.com out of Cleveland this morning. He was writing about the boos, and I said to him, Jake, I got to be honest with you. Like, from the field, it really didn't seem any different than any other away team.
Aditi,
There
I
was
saw that.
You got to have a crowd of people to boo.
I saw that, and you know what it looked like to me, because I know this happens, and you know this happens. It almost sounds to me like that was this, and I don't know this, and I don't want to accuse Jake of being spoon-fed a story by his assignment desk, but I've seen this before, where writers are kind of told, this is the story that we're looking for, and they get there and they're like, yeah, but this isn't really the story, but this is the story we want. Because when I read that, I'm like, I didn't think the boos were a factor at all. And I just was like, why is he writing about this?
I'm not going to say that about Jake. I will be very
hate to
honest
do that
about
too,
this.
but I
I'll
know
say
that in the past I've seen it happen that way. Not with Jake,
sure.
but
And I actually did ask Jake, I'm like, do you think that there was any like piped in noise up high, like up on the press box? Because my impression, and he very validly said, if you look at a lot of national writers kind of said the same thing. I think that Mike Jones in The Athletic was a little bit more sort of like, hey, people were apathetic and pretty tepid. And I'll tell you, I can only speak to my experience. I don't know what it sounded like from up in the press box or way in the stands. But on the field, I was on the field in Jacksonville. There was a lot of noise in Jacksonville for a preseason game. There was a lot of profane chanting. There were a lot of vulgarities. This past week, I talked to the league several times, and my entire broadcast crew had multiple meetings. What are we going to do if there's profane signs? What if there are vulgarities? What if there is an unfurled banner? What if there is a streaker? What if there is a demonstration? I got all the rules on when the Texans security is allowed to take away signage, what all of that is. There was none of it, guys.
I know.
Nothing.
That's why I was surprised Jake wrote about it.
I think the boos
I didn't hear a single profane chant. There was not one demonstration or protest that anybody came through. Tony Busby talked about making this a stunt, that he was going to be here with bells and whistles on. Never saw anything. And I'll tell you this, I was looking, and were there boos? Yeah, there were boos. There are always boos for the opposing team.
That's right.
And quite frankly, it was a half-empty arena. There are fans there that just don't really care about the home team right now. There's a lot of apathy.
I saw a lot of Browns fans.
A lot of Browns fans, yeah.
You know, like it certainly wasn't like the Browns booing the Bengals in Cleveland, or the Bengals booing the Steelers in Cincinnati, or the Ravens booing somebody in Baltimore. Like it just felt like.
I know they didn't show him on the broadcast, but did you see Tony Busby and his crew that he was supposed to bring there?
I never saw them.
They weren't there.
No.
Were they not? Did you hear that they weren't there, or did you just?
He posted an Instagram post.
I didn't. You know
from
what,
the
guys?
suite.
I'll be honest. I didn't seek it out. I wasn't interested in seeking it
no,
out.
I just wondered. I know they didn't focus on it. I just wondered if that was a thing, and he was trying to get attention.
We talked about it in the car on the way home. Our director never saw anything.
Got it.
Now, again, the cameras weren't scanning to find them. The cameras did find the box that Deshaun Watson's whole family was in.
Oh, there was like
that a number of times.
There was a family reunion up there.
Yeah.
Busby did
I
post on
think
his
had it been very obvious, then they could have found him, but no one ever found him.
Busby did post on his Instagram that he was there, but that's the only sign anyone saw of him.
Don't you think it's going to be a lot worse this week?
Oh, yeah.
Right? In Cincinnati?
You know, and I actually had this conversation with the producer of the CBS number 4 crew who's doing that game, Jonathan Siegel, and AJ Ross, the brilliant reporter who will be on the sideline. Both of them, I actually messaged with them this week, and I was like, I think it's going to be way more fireworks, way worse, way more of everything that we kind of prepared for and worried about. I think they're going to see that in Cincinnati.
It's a hated division rival.
I was just going to go to this. I think there's an opportunity for this to develop into a really heated rivalry. From our perspective, I've never been no animus against the Bengals. It's like
I did though, but it was when Sam Weiss was there and he said you don't live in Cleveland.
I've always hated them.
But I found myself
because of that, right?
A bunch of reasons. I hate Cincinnati too as a city.
I've kind of found myself watching the Bengals and being like, okay, they went to the Super Bowl and we want to go there. And then now I agree with you guys. Deshaun Watson is probably going to get a very decent helping of booing. And I'm wondering, because the Browns, I got a lot of friends that are Bengals friends, like from that Columbus down. and they aren't as friendly as they used to. They don't like losing.
I'm friendly.
They don't like this losing.
I'm ornery about the law. I'm going to admit.
Look.
I'm going to admit. Everybody knows I root for the Browns to win 15 games, but I root for them to lose 2 games.
That's fair.
I'm very ornery right now about this.
Yeah, he's like, I'm tired.
I'll admit it. I'm tired of it.
I bet you are.
I'm tired of this nonsense.
It's tough for you because you're working in Cleveland.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm
Cleveland-
torn because from a professional, I do root for the Browns when they don't play the Bengals. And from a professional standpoint, it's better for us if the Browns win, which was why it was always stupid to me when fans were like, you want the Browns to lose? I'm like, no, it's better for business if the Browns
Do
win.
you think maybe you're just a Cincinnati fan because you've never been to Cincinnati?
Well, I don't have any. I'm not a Cincinnati fan. I'm a Bengals fan. I don't give a rat's ass about the city. I am a
Yeah, but you know what's
Clevelander.
so funny? But you know what's funny about this, guys? My son asks me all the time who I am a fan of. And he knows that when I was in New Jersey, I grew up a Giants fan.
Right.
But I'm always telling him that right now I'm a fan of me. Like, what's the best thing for me? What's the best storytelling I can do? What's the best for my career? And so, Adam, I think it's really funny that even at this point, your fandom is that strong. Because for me, the animosity for certain teams is stronger than the actual connective pull to the team. And what I mean by that is I grew up loving the New York Giants. That meant that I hated the Dallas Cowboys.
And the Eagles and the Redskins.
Right now, like, I really like Brian Dable, right? So, like, and I like the Mara family, and I like Mr. Tisch, and they were good to me. So, like, I want success for the Giants, sure, but, like, I don't really care. Like, if they win or they lose, I don't really care. But watching the Cowboys, that animosity certainly still exists. The Yankees. I grew up on the Yankees. Right now, I don't know if I could name 4 Yankees for you. I really don't think that I could. But the Red Sox, I still definitely have some animosity for the Red Sox.
That's funny.
I mean, I don't know. It's just, to me, that's the way fandom works.
I never hated the Browns as a kid. Never. Because my dad had rooted for the Browns when he was young.
But
I always hated the Steelers and then I hated the Ravens.
G. Bush was like, it's never really been that thing for him.
Yeah.
And it was for
in
me
the 80s.
in the 80s
With
and 90s
Bernie and
the same
Boomer.
way. Yeah, but my dad always used to tell me that he hated the Bengals because he loved Paul Brown.
Right.
He loved
everybody.
Paul Brown.
There's a lot of people like that.
And he just thought that football started and ended with Paul Brown.
Right.
And the fact that Art Modell fired him and
Right.
he went to Cincinnati and started a team, as much as my dad always loved Paul Brown, he hated the Bengals' existence because it was a constant reminder that he's only there because Art Modell was an idiot.
Right.
And
yeah,
so,
but Jay, why should Paul Brown suffer for that? If anything, your dad should have moved over to the Paul Brown team.
That's
because
what I
he was
asked.
wrong by the Cleveland team.
You ask a logical question, Aditi. And I asked my dad.
That's what my dad did.
I said,
Dad,
Dad,
wronged by Cleveland. Why stay loyal to Cleveland in that scenario?
I'll give you his answer because I said, Dad, why aren't we Bengals fans then?
Yeah.
It seems like you would have said enough is enough. And he said there's 2 reasons. I'll give you the biggest reason second. The first reason is I have to watch my team. And I can only watch the Browns. See, now this was before satellites and every game. He said, so I can't root for a team that I can't watch. And back then, you found out who won when you got the paper on Monday.
It was weird.
I mean, it was a different time.
It was hard.
It was a different time.
Even when I was a kid, I didn't have.
But then my dad, and this really speaks to, I miss my dad so much, and he taught me a lot of things about relationships and how you treat people and what they mean. But this was the second reason, and this was the biggest reason. He said, I'm loyal to my city. I'm cheering for the name on the front, not the name on the back. And unfortunately, Paul Brown was it was the Browns, for crying out loud. He said it was very difficult for me to separate my fandom and my love of the game from Paul Brown, especially because he went to a team in our division that now had to be my enemy. But I root for my city. I root for my team.
I always felt sad as a kid, a little bit. I was, my dad made me a diehard Cubs and Bengals fan, but I always felt sad that I didn't root for any New York teams. I was like, because I didn't have that camaraderie.
How did you guys do it like when it came to watching?
I barely ever watched them, to be honest.
But isn't that odd?
It's completely odd.
Yeah,
it was
my
so
dad just
weird.
couldn't do it.
It was so weird being. I totally understand where your dad comes from. That makes complete sense. It was so odd as a kid. I very rarely watched either team play.
How would you find out when the Bengals won? Because the 10-minute ticker came around in the late 80s, which I loved.
Right.
Every 10 minutes they would put scores down.
I mean, we get the scores on like the news station
isn't that
when I was a
crazy?
young
You
kid.
got to call a cousin who who lives near that
Or
town.
Sportsline.
Right.
It's called Sportsline.
CBS Sports Phone.
What a crazy
But-
time.
It was
These kids
so
today
weird,
are so
yeah.
spoiled.
But you're right. I think that Aditi brought it up. We are more motivated by our resentment sometimes, and
Yeah.
our,
Oh,
it's,
yeah,
it's a
she's
stronger
100%
memory.
right.
I mean, there's a
Absolutely
reason why
right on that.
there's a reason why political ads lean on that so heavily. There's psychological evidence behind
works.
that.
They never say the good things about their guys. It's always the bad things about the other guys.
negativity sticks with us more.
I'm gonna be honest though. The common thread is, I know there's black, white, Republican, conservative. If the Browns win the Super Bowl, there will be thousands of grown-ass men crying.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Literally.
never before.
Like crying
Dude,
hard.
They were
I was
crying for the
there.
Cavs.
I was
I cried.
there.
I saw it with the Cavs.
I was there in Cleveland when they beat the Steelers to get that playoff berth. This was
Right.
the COVID year, and there were people crying in the stands.
Yeah.
I mean,
cried
that
then,
was just
too.
to get into the playoffs.
Yeah,
Forget
right.
winning the whole thing.
Yeah.
But just getting in, and people were crying.
Yeah, it means a lot.
I cried once this year just watching Nick Chubb run in a regular game. I did. I literally just
I
cried.
will say that,
Paul,
just
speaking
random
of Nick
aside,
Chubb-
right,
beautiful.
before you
Yes.
get to me,
Beautiful.
I will say my favorite videos, the ones that I watch over and over, are like the team flying home to Buffalo in the middle of a snowstorm, and at 3 a.m. there are all these people at the
Oh,
airport
Gives me
cheering
goosebumps.
players. Like
Yep.
that to
Yeah.
me means so much.
Yeah, call
I
me
hate
when
to do
Josh
this, but
Allen gets to the Super Bowl.
Hey,
Go ahead,
the one
Mikey.
seed in
Speaking
the
of Nick
AFC
Chubb,
now.
Aditi, you tweeted this out this morning. I was hoping you could give us a little more info on it, but take Tagboard full. This is a fun story you didn't get to share with us on the broadcast about one Nicholas Chubb. Apparently, he's Jerry Juice's fantasy running back.
Hughes.
That's what I said, Hughes.
Oh.
That's what I said.
All right.
I thought he said something else. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I could read.
Questionable.
But Chubb is Jerry Hughes' fantasy running back, and he sat him in the because it wasn't the playoffs. And do you ever come across this more often, Aditi, that players are playing against the other players they have in fantasy, and what is that interaction like?
That is
typically?
weird that
You know,
active players have a fantasy team.
Oh my God! So many of them
love
play.
that.
Don't you remember there was a game actually where Melissa Stark had this Sunday night report on Austin Eckler, who plays in like 6 or 7 leagues, and he was talking about how he, doesn't have himself in every one of the leagues,
But
and
he
he
tried
traded
to
up
trade
to
for
get
himself, didn't
in
he?
one league,
Yeah.
and he was already taken, so he had to settle for Derrick Henry. I just remember I generally don't talk fantasy football with players because I remember, 10, 11 years ago, I was in the Giants locker room. Must be 12 years ago, maybe. I'm in the Giants locker room, and someone Bull, Anita Marks, right?
Of course.
I know Anita.
Okay.
I
yeah.
made her career, for crying out loud.
Oh, okay. So the wonderful Anita Marks, before Bull made her career, or maybe while Bull was making her career.
I was driving her to
massively
work,
into
for crying out loud, Aditi.
Okay.
Give
okay.
him
Let me
credit
get
for
my
that
story.
woman.
We were
career.
doing shows together on the Fan in New York. She had no car. I would go pick her up. I could go
All right, we
further and
gotta
further,
say
but I'll leave it be because I like her. So go ahead.
Yes,
I
the
love her.
She
brilliant
played
Anita
women's
Marks.
professional football, by the way.
She did.
The brilliant Anita Marks, who taught me about fantasy football, frankly, she went up to Steve Smith, the wide receiver, not Steve Smith of Panthers and Ravens fame, but the other Steve Smith, one day, and says to him, "Oh, I have you on my fantasy team." And he was like, basically, so what? But not in that nice of a way.
Well, he's a
And it was
jerk.
just one of those like, okay, these guys don't really love the idea that people are so tied to what their production is and putting that sort of pressure, and football players are supposed to win. Who cares about how many touchdowns or how many PPR points they get or whatever?
They do hate
And
that
so-
part of it.
Yeah, so ever since then, I've sort of like kept away from that. I don't like that. Last year was the first time that I actually drafted my own team. Josh Allen and Joe Burrow were my quarterbacks, and Joe Mixon was my running back. And I remember telling Joe Mixon, I'm like, so I hate fantasy football. And he goes, yeah, me too. And I was like, oh, well, but you're my running back. So anyway, I just didn't really, I kind of stay away from that.
Yeah.
This came up because we were talking, I was just talking to him about fate. We were talking about the Texans. We were talking about rebuilding a young team. What are good signs, et cetera. Then we were talking about the matchup. Obviously, when you talk to an opponent of the Browns, you talk about the run game. And I was like, yeah, okay, so Nick Chubb. And he goes, I love him. And he's just like, he is... And then everything that you'd want to rip off, he says about him. And then he happens to tag on, he's my fantasy running back. And I was like,
great.
what? Really?
No, that's a cool
So then I
sidebar
just said, are you
story.
playing him this week? And he goes, no, I can't. He's like, I
great.
have to sit him. I mean, I have to shut him down.
Yeah.
And then he says, thank goodness it's not the playoffs.
And he didn't have a great fantasy game.
How did CBS not find time to fit that into the broadcast?
I know.
It's a great story.
You know, it's funny because we were talking about it beforehand, and Spiro, our play-by-play guy, was like, "We've got to get that in. We've got to get that in."
It's fantastic.
You know, the nature of the game. Guys, it was hard. We all talked about this last week. You know, a regular game, you try to find some levity. You put the joy in your voice. Even something as simple as the post-game interview, you smile at the player that you're talking to. This was just a very, very different flavor tone to a game because of everything else attached to it. Yeah. And even when we were telling, you know, important stories about Kevin Stefanski's initial pitch to Deshaun Watson, you sort of felt like you had to qualify it. Okay, once the grand jury delivered no indictment and once the Browns decided they're all in, then Kevin Stefanski had this meeting. You can't just sit here, you know, the week before you could say, well, Mike McDaniel and I had this meeting where Mike McDaniel showed him. I wanted to be like, well, Kevin Stefanski and Deshaun Watson had this meeting where Kevin Stefanski showed him, but it just wasn't the game to do that. And so I think we just didn't have an opportunity. And also, quite frankly, it was an ugly game. Like, there was never a moment where Chubb and Hughes were on each other where you got to be like, oh, perfect moment to tell this story.
Yeah, but it is a great story. It really is. Aditi, you're awesome. I know you had all this anxiety last week about, this is a huge game and there's a lot you were freaking awesome,
as always.
You always are. And I thought the tone was perfect. I love Spiro and Jay, as you know. I know Jay well. I interviewed Spiro like in 2004. He was named by our Cold Pizza show top 5 young broadcasters to watch, and I interviewed him. He'll never remember it, but
I'm going to text him right now, Jay.
I've loved him ever since then. I think he's a phenomenal talent, and one day he'll be the Joe Buck of CBS. I firmly believe that. He'll take the mantle from Jim Nantz. He's terrific.
And he's a better human. He really, really, truly, I will say that. I'm very lucky. Everybody I've
one of my neighbors knows him weirdly. Yeah. Like, literally, one of my neighbors. I'm walking the dog, and he said, ask me if I know Spiro. And I go, I met him, yeah. And he goes, yeah, it's my wife's cousin or something like that. So tell him I said hi. Great job, though. I really wanted to tell you that because I know you were anxious about it. I was just, every time you came on, I had a huge smile on my face.
Our whole house gets quiet when you come on. I'm like, everyone shut up, that's my friend.
Aditi's on, everybody shut up. All right,
thank you, Aditi.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have fun. See you Thursday.
It was going to be, I know I did work yesterday. That was, if I was here, one of the points I really wanted to make was how good she was.
She was.
She's great. She was so good.
She's always great.
She was nervous for no reason. It wasn't even a thing. It's like going and standing up and doing a speech and you realize how fast 2 minutes go.
Yeah.
Like, damn, 2
I
minutes.
don't know. There's nothing wrong with being a little nervous.
No, I think
you get scared when you're not nervous.
Yeah.
I remember feeling that on stage. Like one time, I was just like, I'm not nervous at all. This is gonna be terrible. I'm not prepared. It was awful.
Nerves, all the great players will tell you, I get nervous. It's when that's what the fear of failure is one of the most. I think it's the biggest motivator. It always has been in my life. If I was going to try something, baseball or sports or even TV, what always forced me to get better and succeed was I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to have to tell people, I tried to do that. I couldn't.
I actually wasn't nervous when we did this show for the first time, whatever reason. My first time ever in Cleveland, I was nervous.
I bet.
My first time on the air in New York on the radio, I was nervous.
You seem very zen on this show.
But I wasn't nervous.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Even though I had no team. I don't know.
You know what? It's the group.
That's it.
I think we're all put each other at ease.
By the way,
go ahead.
Unrelated note real quick. Emmanuel Clase won the American League Reliever of the Year.
Wow.
The first Dominican to ever win the award.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he was one of 2. MLB announced their first and second teams yesterday. He was one of 2.
And by the way, the Guardians, and John Heyman just said the Guardians are looking at Josh Bell. But I want to throw one first base name that I like more. I've been thinking about this.
Please.
Yeah.
Trey Mancini.
I saw his name mentioned yesterday. I think Mandy mentioned him.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, I think I read her yesterday.
The thing about Mancini, like the Guardians need, we'll move on in a second, but the Guardians need someone that can hit lefties.
Yes.
And if you look at Mancini in his career, his numbers, righties, lefties, completely even. It's unbelievable.
So you're saying that Naylor could become a piece because I think Mandy said you got to find someone that you can platoon at first base with Naylor.
What I would do is play Mancini at first base and then platoon Naylor with a guy who can hit lefties at DH.
Oh, okay.
And then I play Oscar Gonzalez in right, Straw in center and Quan in left.
Has any relief pitcher ever won a Cy Young?
Yes.
Yes.
Willie
Twice.
Hernandez.
Well, I thought Dennis Eckersley did too. And Mariano Rivera, did those guys
I don't think
never-
Mariano Rivera ever won
I
an
thought
MVP.
Eckersley
I
may
think
have.
you're right about Eckersley.
Eckersley in the not.
Eckersley did, and didn't the Dodgers Gagne? Didn't he win the Cy Young?
Wow.
No. The Cy Young or the MVP?
Cy Young.
Oh,
Cy Young.
Yeah, I believe, check this, I believe Willie Hernandez, who became Guillermo Hernandez, I believe he won in 1984 for the Tigers.
Nope,
He was like 35 of 35.
Yeah.
I don't think he
Yeah.
blew a
So,
save.
so how could you justify
Check
that?
it out. Maybe I'm wrong.
How could,
Eckersley did what I'm looking up
Right.
everyone
how
else.
could you justify
Eckersley
giving a reliever like that's like saying Jose Mason's going to win the Cy Young? Like, why would he?
I think if there's no
failure.
starting,
They're advertising your failure, Jay.
the only,
know,
to
thanks.
me, the
Appreciate
only
it,
way
Steve.
I wouldn't really give Closer an MVP, a Cy Young. The only, I guess, exception I can make is if there's literally no starting pitcher that had a great year, because
Yeah.
they put
How
so
often
many
does
more
that
innings.
happen?
But that never really happens.
Right.
It
There are
shouldn't-
4 relievers, by the way, who have won MVP.
4.
What?
MVP.
4.
Eckersley's one.
MVP.
Wasn't Guillermo Hernandez one of them? Or am I
It is
crazy?
Jim Constantine,
Was he from like 1908?
Pronouncing that wrong.
1950.
Okay.
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 Don't
Raleigh Fingers.
Raleigh.
Raleigh Fingers.
Okay.
Great
Willie
mustache.
Hernandez.
I just
Four.
said it. That's
Tigers.
what I said.
Eckersley.
84
Eckersley
MVP.
90. 91.
92.
But-
92.
92.
By the way, I thought, and Hernandez won the MVP for 84 Tigers, which to me, close with those late 90s Yankees teams, and I would say those 90s Indians teams that didn't win a World Series were up there too. That 84 Tigers team was the most
unbelievable.
dominant team I've ever seen.
They started 35
and 5, yes.
They on a Saturday.
Yes.
On the game of the week.
On Saturday.
Jack
Yeah, on
Morris
Saturday.
threw a no-hitter.
Jack
He was-
Morris.
and I got to see it because it was the game of the week. That's how much of a
And
geek
when-
I was.
and
I was in
remember-
college, and
he
I'm-
remembers the
on
day.
Saturday, I'm watching the game of the week.
Remember, they played the Padres in the World Series in
Yes, they
84.
did. They
The
did.
Cubs and Padres, it was the first time the Cubs had gone to the playoffs in 40 years. Cubs were up, it was a best of 5.
Cubs blew that
The
one.
Cubs lost home field advantage because they didn't have lights. So they flipped it. The Cubs were supposed to have home field advantage. Played the first
Interesting.
2 at Wrigley. Cubs won. Then they played the last 3 in San Diego. Cubs blew a huge lead in Game 5. Rick Sutcliffe on the mound. Sutcliffe homered in that series, who they got that year from the Indians.
Yeah, you're
the
right.
Cubs traded Joe Carter, Mel Hall,
Mark Whitten.
and was Mark Whitten in that deal?
Mark
and the
Whitten,
Cubs
wow.
got,
Hard
the
hit,
Cubs
Mark
got
Whitten.
Sutcliffe, who won Cy Young for the
Yeah.
Cubs in '84. I thought the Cubs had a shot against the Tigers. The Padres had
You have to
no
look it up
chance.
now. Test my memory and see.
Look
if-
up that trade,
I thought
Mikey.
it was
If
Mark
you're just
Whitten.
tuning in, this
I don't
is
think it was Mark
Baseball
Whitten.
Rain Men.
I think
Jay
the
Crawford
trade. I think
Adam the Bull.
trade was
Baseball Rain Men.
Rick Sutcliffe was in,
baseball
the Cubs got
almanac here.
Sutcliffe. I thought Ron Hassey was in that trade. Mel Hall and Joe Carter were in that trade.
Yeah, I
We'll
don't-
look it up, but let's
Please.
let's
By the way,
preview
Rick
our-
Sutcliffe,
I
one
know
of
we're
the nicest
random
human
stuff.
beings you'll ever meet.
He seems that way.
Let's preview
Love
our
it. One of my
overtime
all-time
segment
favorites
real
in ESPN.
quick, then we're going to take some
Yes.
Cavs talk.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Baker Mayfield is going to the waiver wire as we speak. By
Yes.
4 o'clock, we will learn if an NFL team is going to pick up the former Browns
Do we
quarterback.
want to do
$1 million.
real quick roundtables? Is he going to be claimed?
No.
No, why would they right
I
now?
say he will.
I say he will too.
By
And
who?
we're going to speculate on where the
because
best.
he's a former #1 pick.
They're gonna
Teams
have-
can't help
you
themselves.
mean
And it's
this
only
season,
$1 million.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's
now,
only
in
1.2.
overtime today, though, we're going to speculate where
Even
we
if
think
it's
the
just
best
a
fit with him
security
for
blanket.
would
Okay,
be.
I didn't know it was
For
only $1
$4.99,
million.
you can get that exclusive overtime content. Baker Mayfield, always a hot button topic. You'd be a $1.99. That's your starters tier. That gets you the emojis. $4.99 gets you that exclusive overtime content. We broke a record yesterday. We're hoping to break a record on views
And
today. For overtime, we're talking Baker Mayfield. But tonight, guys, Cavs, Lakers, LeBron's homecoming, Anthony Davis on fire. Big game at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. G. Bush, how you feeling?
I'd rather talk about if Baker Mayfield was a bust, but we'll do that tomorrow. Yeah, Cavs and
You still hate
Lakers.
LeBron?
No,
I don't
no.
either.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
It's just like seeing. I explained it. It's like seeing your ex-girlfriend from high school who's gained a little weight and she's playing Jane. Doesn't look like she's done anything.
Okay. Are we talking about LeBron?
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
all right.
it
Yeah,
don't-
but
it-
this old high school girlfriend did go to her new boyfriend and
Oh, all right.
won a
There he
ring.
is. He's
What-
going for
what's
it.
that all about?
I had to
Yeah.
stretch my knee.
He's having
Okay.
a little dance.
I was like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Right.
so-
I think it's a Jewish thing, you guys. He's
I thought he was doing like
He's got
got to do that like every hour and a half. Hey, I look how yours went Russian, right?
Yeah, I always loved that when they used to do that in the cartoons. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
give me a Boris hat.
Bugs Bunny got at it.
Yeah. No, LeBron, you know he's going to be trash in L.A. They have no chance to win.
Really? Because they've won 8 of their last 10, and they look like a different team.
Fool's gold. Fool's gold.
It is?
Anthony Davis got
Can't
about.
stay healthy. That's
he
the problem.
cannot
Well,
stay
that's
But
healthy.
if he does,
If he does, that's a big does. That's actually
Yeah.
like saying if Denzel Ward is available, he's not
I
available.
feel that the Lakers come in here and win tonight.
Yeah.
is Jared Allen going to play? I think
That's
that's
the
a big
question.
deal
He is
too.
questionable.
I am saying right
Questionable.
now. I'm
You're
saying
saying Lakers
no.
going to win no matter what.
No, I don't believe he's going to play.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he doesn't,
That's the
it's
difference.
an L for sure.
That is the
if
difference.
he does, I think it's closer, but I still think the Lakers win.
Here's
They've been a different team the last 10 games.
Yeah.
I want to. We'll see tonight if the Cavs are a different team. Because the Cavs, if they want to aspire to be one of those teams you can really lean on, you got to have what I call swingman Mobley. And swingman Mobley is just basically understanding the swing of the game, and he has to be able to flip his game over to a new level. So when you don't got Jared Allen, he has to say, I got to be super aggressive. He has to go at Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is prone to foul trouble. Anthony Davis does not necessarily want to guard him on the perimeter. Mobley in these types of games, he's averaging 15 and 9. These games when they don't have Jared Allen or one of the guards, Garland or Mitchell, he has to kick that up about 23. He has to be 23 and 12. And 3 blocks if the Cavs want to get to where they're going. And JB should be telling him right now, this is one of them games. This is one of those games where we're looking for you to be super aggressive off the tip, keep it going, energy, all that other stuff. You can't wait. I shouldn't look up at halftime and he got 4 points and 4 rebounds. That can't happen.
You know what's funny, guys? If I would have told you in the beginning of the season that the Cavs would be in 3rd place in the East,
I know.
tied for the 6th best record in
I
the
think the
NBA,
Lakers are like 13th.
at 15 and 9, we would have all been excited about it. But right now it feels like a bummer because they were 8 and 1, and since then they've gone 7 and 8. They've been kind of up and down since that great start.
Then that bad West Coast turn.
Yeah.
That was really the only downside.
Interesting.
But even Sunday, they lost to the Knicks. And
Yeah.
they were
Yeah, it was bad.
horrible.
Here's the thing, though. Not surprising from a young team. Cavs are 10 and 1 at home and 6 and 8 on the road.
Yeah, you can't.
Right?
You can't be sub 500 on the road and be a contender.
But
it's impossible.
But it should get better, I would think, as the season
better.
goes along.
It's
They
better.
got 3 straight home games now.
They lost to Golden State on the road. They lost
Yeah.
to Sacramento on the road.
Although Sacramento's like 13.
I know.
better.
Sacramento's all
They're
of a
actually
sudden
better than I
surprisingly
thought.
playing well.
when they beat us, they were trash.
Right.
Since then, I'm
They've
like,
been-
okay, that's not such
Even
a bad
Oklahoma
loss.
real
City's won their last
slump
3 games.
Yeah.
Toronto on the road.
Toronto on the road.
Honestly, what I'm most excited
Twice.
about tonight is just that they're on TNT because I like seeing those guys talk.
There's a
about
different
the Cavs.
vibe when LeBron comes back to town, too. You know
It's
that.
still something
It is.
special.
And
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah, and that's in every city, but obviously particularly here.
And if the Cavs do beat them with those guys both playing and the Lakers playing well, it's going to feel like a great win.
I will say,
It's a signature win
They
if they
were
win.
when they lost, they beat the Lakers 114 to 100.
Yep.
At Staples. When they played in November. Hell, I figured by my memory, I'm like either LeBron, and I knew LeBron played, but I thought either Davis or Westbrook didn't play. But I went back and I looked up the box score.
All of them.
Yeah.
They all played, and they all played well.
Yeah.
LeBron, AD, and Westbrook combined for 65 points, and the Cavs still beat them by 14.
The difference is right now AD is being who they thought he was going to be, who LeBron thought he was going to be, who the Lakers thought he was going to be when they brought him in, and why they thought they were setting this up, and why they sacrificed their future as far as draft picks and everything. Put him in the position they're in now, where if he isn't good, they're not in a position where they can easily improve this team because they just don't have the assets at this point.
No, they don't.
So they have to be
gotta get
reliant
better
on
with
him,
the guys they have.
on him keeping this together. And tonight it'll be a test of that. But I do like the matchup a lot better if we're looking obviously at Allen there than the Robin Lopez AD matchup, which I would not look forward to very much.
That's advantage Lakers.
Yes,
By a
yes.
smidge.
Who is the slowest? I love Robin Lopez.
God,
he is the slowest person, and he looks like a steamship turning around.
And the fact
Slower
that
than George Mura.
I went with my mom, and my
And he
mom's just like,
never
I went with Peggy Polk
straightens
to a
his
game
legs.
in person, and she's watching, and Peggy Polk's like, that is the slowest man I have ever seen, because he just turns around, and you're like, come on, turn it around, Rob. You can turn around.
He doesn't bend. He irks me because he doesn't bend he doesn't ever straighten his legs. It's always like a.
It's like no one taught him to run. How to run.
And it's like
he's trying to make it up every time. Like he's like, how do you run? That's me.
I'm gonna figure out one of these days.
I think that Mitchell will get about 40.
Yeah, is everybody else picking the Cavs? Am I the only one that thinks the Lakers are going to win this one?
The Lakers will probably win. But
I think if Jared Allen doesn't play, the Cavs lose.
Yeah,
but
if he does,
I agree.
I think they'll win. I think he makes a difference.
I totally agree.
I think
he makes that big of a difference.
I think Garland gets 30, 31. Mitchell gets 40.
You got to figure those guys will shoot better. They were both awful against Knicks.
I watched the second half of that game.
Oh, God.
I'm like,
yeah, they have one of those. You get one of those now and again. Every team gets one of those.
No, but then I go back to the third quarter on Friday night after Thanksgiving against the Bucks. They were outscored 25-2.
Yeah.
Turned a 13-point deficit into like a 17-point hole. Or 13-point
They're going
lead.
through their growing pains. They've had a lot of games, a lot of guys that are injured. And, their deep bench is not very good, which isn't on most teams. Right. Dealing with injuries.
The end of that Knicks game, the Knicks missed 2 threes and got the offensive board on both.
Yeah.
Now, I know sometimes threes take funny kicks, but to me, it didn't even seem like the Cavs were.
This is like how impressionable this young team still is at this point, though. I remember there was a few games where they played great defense at the beginning of the season, better than people expected, and then they fell off for a while and they just kind of got lazy. And Bickerstaff just essentially yelled at them and reminded them to play defense, and he chewed them out apparently.
And they came back.
And they were just like, all right, we'll play defense. And it's kind of scary that they're that impressionable, but at the same time, they've been number 3 in defensive efficiency since.
The NBA is so weird right
now.
Thank you. It's right. It's hard to. There's so many guys missing games, not just on the Cavs.
It is so.
It's so many guys miss games. Guys miss games.
It's kind of turning into college basketball in December.
Yes, and we don't know who.
We're only the regular season.
Wake me up in March.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking about different teams too in like a few months, and some of these teams will have fallen off.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's going to keep moving depending on who's injured.
For me,
it's
hard to get into the NBA until the playoffs.
You sound like LeBron. That's how he feels too. Like I remember like those last few seasons. I swear you just see him on the bench like checking his stocks through the regular season.
This is a bigger. This is
waiting for the play. Yeah, exactly.
This is to a bigger note. The note is like these guys. We take it as serious as they do. Right?
Right.
So when you see guys that don't really you got these layup drills, and I think, and this is bad to say, man, I thought I'd never say this, but the game of just shooting 3-pointers,
it's boring.
It's horrible to watch.
I hate
Killing
it.
the game.
It is horrible.
I hate it.
Everybody running to the.
Yes.
It's just a 3. Whoever makes the most threes wins.
Yes.
That's it.
But it will adjust. Like everything, it evolves and it will adjust to us not liking that anymore. And then we'll get excited and it will. That's how these sports work. But you said something there where you said they react to us pretty much. Like they get as excited as we do. We're 10-1 at home. If you go to a regular season Cavs game right now, it feels like a playoff game.
Yes.
And those kids feed on that. I was at that Boston overtime game, and they weren't losing that game, and that Boston's a better team than they are. But they weren't losing that game at home because that crowd was loud the whole time.
It was the same way for the Washington Wizards for the home opener.
Yeah.
I felt the same way. They were sleepwalking through the first 3 quarters. We're up 12 early in the fourth. Next thing I know, we're going to overtime.
Yep, but that's how much of a vibe.
But they played that game like it was a playoff.
They played great at home.
Vibe
and
matters.
They fed off the crowd.
Not great on the road.
Vibe matters. Hashtag vibe matters.
By the way, I think about this. Think about like when you were, a teenager versus now. In my mind, I think there's a lot of people that would disagree with this. In my mind, the only sport that I like now than I did when I was 15 is the NFL. I wonder if I'm in the majority or minority, and I wonder if I am in the majority, is that why the NFL is so big?
You don't like college football more now than you did? Because you didn't like college football at all.
You didn't watch it at all.
But I still don't like college football that much. I like it more than I did when I was a kid because I had no interest at all.
Right.
So college football a little bit, but I'm still not that like. If I didn't do this for a living, I wouldn't really watch college football.
Really?
I probably wouldn't. And the NBA, I like it way less.
I do too.
The college basketball was my second favorite sport when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Behind only
I like
baseball.
College basketball almost.
And
not
I
at all.
I still love baseball, but I don't love it quite as much as I did when I was a kid.
My love
Where'd you put hockey? I didn't hear where you put hockey.
It didn't even dent his radar screen.
No,
I used to watch hockey.
Hockey was like-
Because New Yorkers love hockey.
I used to watch hockey all
I
the
had
time.
some interest in hockey when I was younger. I have none now.
Yeah. No, I was kidding. I don't think you should.
Yeah.
The NBA has made the NBA is as good skill-wise as it's ever been.
Absolutely.
However, I think the veil is lifted on a new generation in the way they just don't take winning and rivalry seriously. They don't at all. They just don't.
When Bird and Magic and Michael and the Pistons and Olajuwon and all those guys from when I was a kid, you were a kid. Obviously, you're a little older than I am.
Yeah.
But like those guys, every regular season game mattered when those teams played.
They played them all like they were playoff
And even
games.
those Cavs teams and some of these the Seattle Supersonics that had some good, like you had these teams that weren't quite at that level but were still good teams.
Yeah.
And those games were always fun to watch. Maybe part of it's revisionist history. Maybe they weren't as good as I remember.
I think if you had to watch some of those games, I think a lot of it's nostalgia, and I think we connect with things that we experienced in our youth the most, and we hold a
But
punch.
the other thing I'll throw at you is technology.
Yes.
When we were young, every game wasn't on TV.
That's true.
And
That's true.
So
When it was like
becomes
one camera moving like
and
from
so
side to side.
Yeah. That's
You know
right.
what I mean?
with the guy sitting next to the camera by
You see
himself.
you see a guy's head in the shot. half the
True
time.
story.
Yeah.
In our lifetimes, the NBA played playoff games on tape delay.
That's right.
Look that up.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, it's true.
In our lifetimes.
Nobody wanted to watch them.
Nobody was
It's
watching
true.
them live.
The Miracle on Ice was on tape delay in America.
Well, that was they tried to time shift.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it was.
But the
No,
NBA
it
was
wasn't
out
at
of
the time because it was in Lake Placid.
No, they wanted it in prime time, and it was an afternoon game.
Right.
But they wanted it in prime time.
NBA was the opposite. They didn't want to waste time in prime time, so they taped it and played it some other time.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, so think about that. In our lifetime, the NBA was having playoff games on tape delay. But I think it's technology. I do. I think that
It's oversaturation.
every game is on.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, when the Indians were on TV once a week, it's usually Saturday. It was the game of the week, brought to you by Genesee Beer.
Yeah.
And you would. I waited all week for it.
Of course.
And when I was like 7, 8 years old, I got my Indians jersey and my batting helmet and bat in the living room.
Yeah.
I practiced at my swing, and I'm watching the game. It's a big deal. Now, if it's Tuesday night and you don't watch, well, it's okay. They're on tomorrow.
Right.
I'll
Exactly.
Can I give you guys a little insight on this too?
Yeah.
Social media and basketball in particular with social media, because the NBA is far superior to Major League Baseball,
Yes.
NFL, and college football in sharing highlights and allowing
Yes.
people to use those
Yes.
highlights.
100% agree.
You can go and in 30 seconds search Twitter, see the 4 best plays from the game, the dunks, the step back, the game
Right.
winner, the crossover, and you know for the most part what happened in the totality of the game. As G alluded to, teams just shoot threes this year. And as someone who
It's boring.
played in college and only shot threes, in my scholarship contract, I told Coach, I'm not going in the paint.
Scholarship
At the three-point line, if you ask me to do
He's like, I
that,
want you in the
I'm not doing it. I love shooting. It's my favorite thing to watch in basketball. I don't enjoy watching the NBA as much as I used to, just because it's such a.
But their
stagnant
branding is
game in
better.
that sense.
Their branding is better than their product right now.
Right.
You said it
And
yourself.
I
the
think
fact it tells you that the NBA has become so much more popular because, as you said, it used to. I think it wasn't even. They didn't bother showing the playoffs or the finals back in the day.
Kids don't care.
No, they don't.
They don't. And here's the thing, with football and baseball, especially this is 100% in baseball and pretty much in football too. People root for team over player.
Yes.
In basketball, which
Yep.
has a
Player
younger
over
audience,
team.
Yep.
it's player over team.
Yep.
You'll meet a ton of people
Yep.
who were Cavs fans when LeBron was here, then they were Heat fans, and they were Cav fans again.
Right.
Now they're Laker fans.
100%.
You'll meet that. You don't see that in baseball and football
Do you
very
want
often.
the perfect test for that? Go on YouTube and search Cavs versus Lakers tomorrow. An NBA does a 10-minute cut-up of every
Yep.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll have 100,000 views.
It will.
And then search LeBron James highlights versus Cavs, and that'll have 500, 600,000 views.
Yeah.
Donovan
But
Mitchell.
if you type in
minute 30
if you
clip
type in
will have
NFL
500,
highlights,
600,000.
then the FBI will come to your house
Right.
and they will
Yes.
raid your home and
Yes.
tackle you and drag you out in the thick of the night.
By the way, rapid fire, real quick, everybody. If you didn't work in sports for a living, you were just working a regular job. What are the 2 sports you'd watch the most? 1 and 2. The 2 sports you'd watch the most if you didn't do anything.
Baseball, football,
NFL or college? 2.
NFL.
Baseball, NFL. G.
Probably NFL and basketball.
I got you,
Basketball,
NBA.
basketball and college football would be mixed. See, unlike y'all, I had a job last week. I don't know what y'all talking about. I was working 40
Yeah, but you've
hours.
been working at least part-time in the media for 12 years.
I mean, that
so-
was like 6 hours or something, bro.
Come on.
I
Go
would,
NFL and what?
I would go NFL, and I would probably do NBA.
NBA. Mike.
XFL, WNBA,
No, come on.
and NBA, NFL.
NBA, NFL, Mike.
NFL, NBA.
I would go
Significant margin.
MLB, NFL.
Just like me.
And by the way, I like
Anthony?
watching women's softball more than baseball.
Anthony says NBA, NFL.
You like watching
Earl,
women's
NBA, NFL,
college
same thing.
softball.
Women's college
Both are the same
softball
thing.
is a
Yeah.
better product than watching regular season MLB games.
Oh, God, I almost threw up in my mouth hearing
That's
you say
crazy.
that.
G. Bush, the games take 2 hours and 20 minutes. It is way better shooting college softball than it is shooting college baseball.
I'd say
Those games
college.
take
You
5.5
could make the
hours.
argument that college softball can be a better game than college baseball, but not Major League Baseball.
No way. Not Major League Baseball.
Have you
I
seen?
feel like you're just
have
trying to
you-
be controversial
Have
right
you
now.
seen the
a
Tigers?
hot take.
Have you seen the Tigers and the Twins?
Yeah,
Going-
love them.
Going to that game?
All right.
Love them.
All right.
Okay. It's a matter of taste.
No, it's the seam heads, but there are more seam heads than there are softball.
Yeah. There's not. I mean, it's a niche market.
But I will say, when ESPN puts those damn games on,
The
ratings are
the
good.
number is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great.
I'd
But,
watch
but
that.
there's not as highly rated as the Little League World Series,
No.
which is baseball.
You're right.
I love booing those kids. I do. I'm like, no ice cream for you,
You're trash.
Wait till those kids now
Cody.
can have NIL deals.
Them kids might.
Yep.
Them kids might.
We
throw a
still got to
baseball.
get it. We got to get a Cleveland State NIL deal with
Talked
somebody.
about it. Yak said we were going to.
What happened?
We need
sign
a
someone.
we need an NIL deal, UCSS NIL deal with a
pay
field hockey
$25
player
a week.
from Cleveland State.
And they
Yep.
come on and they just talk shit with us.
Yep. Sounds good. Man, you are really like a pirate
know.
today.
Maybe
don't
we
know.
All
could
this
sign,
pirate talk.
Maybe we could sign Clay to an NIL deal.
Yeah, maybe we could.
Good idea.
Is he with us?
He's ready.
Oh, good.
What's up, guys?
Hey.
There he is. The greatest football player not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is on our show right now. What an honor. What an honor.
And he just loves talking about the Hall of Fame, let me tell you. He tells me every year that I need to stop my campaign.
Clay,
And I
she loves
politely-
you. And she's right, by the way. Her campaign is right. She's common sense. Anybody that looks at the numbers that doesn't put you in the Hall of Fame just doesn't know football, period.
Well, I appreciate that. I just don't want her out there, what's the word? Campaigning for me.
I know, because you're humble and you're modest, and that's all admirable. But I also think it's admirable. I have a daughter, and I would like to think that my daughter would advocate to put me in the
ESPN Hall of Fame.
blue and gray plaid shirt Hall of Fame one day. I don't know. I hope she loves me as much as Jen clearly loves you and has been an advocate for you. Enough on that. We're thrilled to have you on the show. It's great to see you, and I just, you know, I'm in awe whenever I'm around you. I interviewed you a couple years ago, and I told you this. Like, I go back to my 12-year-old self when I would put my 57 jersey on to watch the Browns games.
This
So-
is really adorable to watch. He's
Well,
actually
I mean,
quite
that's
tongue-tied
he's
with
a real
fans.
fanboy.
Yeah, it's really weird.
I really am.
It's very strange to watch. You're
I
having
know.
quite an effect on our host. Just so you know, Mr. Matthews.
How does it feel to have a 50-year-old man fanboying you right
Yeah.
Grown man.
Yeah.
Paying
Well,
taxes.
It's been a rough week. Actually, USC lost to Utah.
now? That's
Oh,
right.
wait, I have to interrupt. You're welcome, Ohio State
Yes,
fans.
thank
since I
you.
know you're a
Thank
lot of
you.
them.
It was rough for you guys, I know,
Yeah.
Trojans fans, but we loved it.
I wake up the next morning early to see the USA soccer game. Now it was 6:30 out here, and
Oh, man.
it didn't matter. But watched that, and they lost. But then the Browns gave me a little bit of hope.
How about that? The Browns saved the weekend. That almost never
That's
happens.
a rarity, yeah. Do you watch the Browns every week,
Yeah,
Clay?
that is rare.
Do you watch the
We're
Browns every week?
undefeated with our new quarterback. I mean, I'm just saying, we're 1-0.
Yeah.
It's okay that our defense won the game for us, but how about our defense?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It was like a Clay Matthews-led defense. We actually looked like we knew what we were doing for a change.
Nah, he can tackle. Come on now.
I know he can. He'd still get out there and tackle guys.
Mr. Matthews, first of all, thank you for lending us the talents of your daughter, who comes and asks us fun trivia whenever to get us ready for a game. We got a game coming, obviously, against Cincinnati this week, and we're going to be doing some Cincinnati trivia. Do you have any fond memories of playing the Bengals in your times here that you'd like to share?
I just remember, who was the coach? Oh, Sam Weiss. Yeah, about him popping off about how this isn't Cleveland.
Yeah.
You
We
live
weren't
in
even
Cincinnati.
We were playing somebody else. Yeah,
I know.
But
It's
actually-
such a cheap shot.
yeah. There's some good guys on Cincinnati. Anthony Munoz was a teammate of mine, and even though he brought us a little brought us some problems. He was a good guy and
Class
still is. Class act, yeah.
He's got really cool fingers too.
I don't know. Are his fingers messed up from? I haven't seen his hands.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
got one of the worst. I'm sure we can find a picture on the internet. Anthony Munoz's fingers look like they got
Be careful how you Google that.
run over a.
Hey, is this a work safe search?
Well, you look at all those offensive linemen from grabbing folks.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think his was a pinky that just like sticks
Yeah.
straight out.
Looks like a cartoon, like if Fred Flintstone's hand got smashed in a
Yeah.
cartoon.
People are asking, I'm getting questions about all the pictures. Can you tell us about the pictures in the background there behind you guys?
Oh, Dad.
Oh, those are my NFL teams. Or actually, they're the youth football teams I coached to championships.
No,
Let me
they
change
are
that.
not.
Yeah.
He did. No, they're his
Can you see them?
Those are all Cleveland Brown
Is
ones.
that a? Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah, you can see the Browns.
Yeah, I
Well,
can see a
okay,
couple of them.
Well, just over his shoulder, I have to brag for a second
Oh, wait.
because
Let me get that.
which one? Okay, just over his shoulder. Oh my gosh, he's gonna get up and. Oh,
Clay's taking pictures out for us.
okay. He's a crazy snowboarder. I know there's a reflection,
Whoa.
but look at the hair.
What?
Right there.
That looks
Hold on, there's a
photoshopped.
reflection.
That's me snowboarding.
Oh, that's funny.
That looks
You have to have a ton of speed, Clay, to get that high off the ground at your size. I mean, that's some
or a green screen.
or a green screen.
One of the two.
No,
No, I know. I know Clay Matthews wouldn't do that.
Let me find out.
That's pretty cool.
I turned 41 3 months after I retired, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you got to try this snowboarding." I went out. I got so beat up that on the way home, I stopped to get. It was about a 2-hour drive. I stopped someplace, got out of the car, and nearly fell over. Got home, went immediately to sleep. So my friend calls me, wakes me up, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I go, "When are we going again?"
Just
I
like
went-
football.
I went right from getting beat up in the NFL to getting beat up on snowboarding.
There wasn't no brothers
And you
out
know
there.
his new hobby that he took up during COVID is what, Dad? Mountain biking.
Oh,
He mountain
yeah.
bikes and he took me out there and left me in the dust. I thought I was gonna die, and you gave me such. He's like, just discipline your mind, and I'm like, Dad, my legs are burning, and I think I'm gonna die. And he let me go. Rattlesnakes going by, and he's just like, a mile ahead of me, and I'm like, what, I'm done. I'm getting outdone by my 60-some-year-old father.
Yeah,
but
well, he's got
that's-
that super Jedi dad's mindset where he could never lose to his kids in anything, ever. I'm sure you have that, because I know I have that with my son. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's in his discipline.
Yeah.
He's not beating me,
All right.
because I'm
Well-
smart enough to know what he can beat me in, and I just
Stay away from
I
it.
just stay away from it.
Clay, here's the important question: If you and your brother did the Oklahoma drill right now, who would come out on top?
Oh, God.
I cannot answer that question, but I can tell you what happened. Very first game, my brother is the first round pick of the Houston Oilers, 1983. So they come up to Cleveland and they're playing. So Bruce was playing right guard. So there's this play where he runs all the way from right guard. I'm at right outside linebacker. So he pulls to his left, and he's going to knock me out, okay? And what happened was I recognized the play, and I look, and I see my brother coming, and you can see on his face all the years where I couldn't let him win when he was my younger brother. He's going to make up for it on one hit. And what does the smart guy do? Get out of the way.
Olay, baby. Olay.
He went flying through the air, landed in the mud, got out, had a big
He
patch
left
of
his
mud
feet.
on his helmet.
Oh,
And as he's walking back, I go, don't leave your feet.
As an offensive lineman, you cannot leave your feet.
He must have hated that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right, I feel like we beat around the bush long enough. You should be in the Hall of Fame. You're a Cleveland legend. The year is 1986, and you were part of a cinematic masterpiece called Masters of the Gridiron. You starred in the role of Clay Rock.
Wow.
First of all, I want to hear about your character and your experience during the filming.
Well, Mike Babb is the guy you need to talk to. He put this whole thing together. And gosh, I think we were on a nice little run there. We were winning a bunch of games. We had several good runs there. That's why,
Yes, you did.
I don't remember the bad runs, but we went over to some place on the east side. It was a park, and went over there. And first of all, we had to put on these outfits that we were scantily dressed. And then went out and just started winging it a little. The thing was, most of us were still sore from the game on Sunday. And I think Tuesday was our day off. And it was, it was pretty, there was a lot of action. We had these sticks where we swung at each other. And, most of the acting was natural to me.
Filmed in one day?
I think we did do it in one day.
Yeah, it looks like it probably took about a day, maybe 2.5 hours. No, it's a great. I think it's a masterpiece. I love the ninjas like with mustaches that you guys are fighting for no reason. I love that you guys fight a grizzly bear at one point that doesn't seem like it wants to be there at all.
Jen, we watched it this morning as a production staff. We actually watched it this morning to prepare for this. The grizzly bear came out of nowhere, Polk. I was so confused when all of a sudden you're fighting the ninjas and a grizzly bear just pops out and it's
This was pre-PETA. This was before they were really keeping an eye on things. Yeah. And I think that
so they couldn't say no animals were injured in the making.
It looks like that
movie.
bear had a lot of Valium or something, and it was just kind of leaning on Bob Golick at some point, I think. But
who was the bear? It wasn't a real bear.
It was a real bear.
No, it wasn't.
It was the 80s. It was the 80s. You could just go get a bear from somewhere in Medina.
Where did you guys get the bear from?
Yeah. Who didn't have a bear back then?
What?
Yes, you guys, we have to watch this.
Yeah, well, you know what? I just can't believe it was snubbed by the Academy. Really,
right?
It's just.
Well, there's
such pretentious jerks.
There's such snobs. Here's my my last question about Masters of the Gridiron for now. I mean, next time we come out, and I'll obviously berate you with questions about it again. But would you, if we did a screening, UCSS, if we did like a screening after the season, and we did like a red carpet gala and brought whoever would come back who was in the film and showed the film with the people who were in it, would you be a guest of honor there as a former actor in it?
It's a tough question. You know how much work offer I get this time of year because of that?
I can only imagine.
That on TV the other day.
Well, Clay, you know what? You can always say this. You and Tom Cruise have something in common. The Academy has not recognized either one of you with the Best Actor award.
That's true.
And so you're in his acting category.
Yes. But we're gonna set that up. We're gonna put you up at a Days Inn. I think you're gonna have a really nice time.
And we could rent out that castle that's on Airbnb.
We could. That was Squire's Castle. Maybe we'll all stay there.
Yeah.
We should do the screening there.
Should be at Squire's Castle.
I've been there.
I got married at Squire's Castle.
Which time?
No. People don't start answering.
No. This could take us down a rabbit hole of an hour.
not do it.
Last Friday, we got live trivia after this, by the way.
A year and some change.
Okay.
G. Bush told us a story about his current marriage situation, and it took 45 minutes to tell the story. So we're not going to get into that
it's
now.
a good
trivia we have to
45-minute
get
story.
To.
Yeah, it was worth it.
It's going to be a special. It'll be a UCSS special.
All right, but you got to get the
Here we
trivia,
go.
is what you're
Sorry.
saying, right?
And we got to do trivia. And the first one, Jen, Polk already gave away the answer, so we're just going to give him the first
I
one.
love ruining stuff.
My dad said, "What are we talking about?" Hold on. See, look. They already know this, but okay.
We still get credit for it.
We're on a hot streak. All right. What was my dad's character's name in Masters of the Gridiron?
I believe that was Clay Rock. Let's see.
Final answer.
Final
All right,
answer.
They say it with such confidence. Let's bring it up, Mikey.
Lock it in.
The answer is
Boom.
All right.
It is Clay Rock. That is correct.
Clay, who came up with that name? You or Bab?
Who did? Did Bab?
I think it was given to me there.
I know, but did Mike Bab?
No,
I don't.
Mike Babb did
Maybe
a lot.
the staff.
He
They
did
had
a
a
lot
staff.
of artwork. He did a lot. He and his wife wrote it. He was like the Orson Welles of Masters of the Gridiron. He did everything.
I did read that his wife is pretty involved.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she'll be at the screening
All right.
too.
You go to question number 2. You guys are on a roll. You're 1-0.
Okay.
Let's take it, Steve.
Let's do it.
All
I already
right,
contributed
bring
my
up
part.
Question number 2. I love that Clay and my Uncle Bruce both appeared on what TV game show?
I would guess Family Feud as like a family at some point. You know, remember how like sometimes wrestlers and soap operas would go on
They
there?
always have like the athlete week, professional. Yeah. That's
All
a
right.
good one. Lock that in.
All
Good
right.
answer,
Family
good
Feud.
answer,
Let's
Mike,
see. Good answer. Good answer. We're going
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
I like this. There's confidence. All right,
Let's
Mike,
see
let's
it.
bring it up. The answer is
Yeah.
Who
Boom.
was the host when you were on, Clay?
Ray Combs.
Richard Dawson?
Richard Dawson.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That goes way back.
Don't ask the next question either.
Did
No,
Who
I?
did
yeah.
he play against?
I won't. I know what the next question
No, did he win?
is. Okay, the next question should be, did you win? But here,
Some family.
Oh,
It was
just a random family?
No,
Yeah.
very well.
the question we have for you, Clay, is if you had to have a family feud now, which one of your family members are you taking?
Oh, that's a rough question.
Well, they get a panel of 4 or 5.
They get 5.
Well, I'd have to go with Jennifer. You know.
Good answer.
Good
Good
answer.
answer.
So you got
Good
one.
answer.
You
Good
got
answer,
one.
Bruce.
You know, I used to ask him when I was younger who his favorite kid was, and then he was like, "Shh, don't tell anyone you're my favorite daughter." And I think one day I'm like, "I'm your only daughter."
Nice.
Like,
yep, he button hooked you.
It was not alive.
You're right.
That's sweet.
All right,
Exactly.
question
All right,
number
so we
3
go to the
here.
next question?
We're 2-0.
All right. How many touchdowns
Ooh.
did my dad score in his career? It looks like my dad doesn't even know the answer, actually.
Hey, this is kind of cheating, Jen. I don't know how to appreciate this. This is a hard one.
Tough. Didn't he have a pick 6 in the playoff game against Houston?
I remember that.
I think it's 1.
So that would be the only one.
I'm going to
you
say
think?
2.
Man,
Interceptions?
he's Clay Matthews. He definitely had more than 2.
But doesn't have to be an interception.
By the
Could've
way,
been a fumble.
by the way, he was one of the first linebackers dropping in covers like that consistently.
I don't think he knows the answer here. Clay.
I love that we're
No
talking.
offense. Very
I like that we're
perplexed
talking about him
by
like
this.
he's
Clay
not
doesn't know
here.
the answer. It's more than 1.
No, I think it was 2.
All right.
Yeah,
I
okay,
said
so,
2.
yeah,
I think it's. I'm
let's
pretty
go
sure
with-
it's
let's
2.
go with
Okay,
2.
let's go with Clay Matthews on this
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna go. We got it from a good source.
Hey, we
How
told
could
the
be
audience.
wrong?
I like that he's on our team now.
I'll tell you. Let's see it, Steve. Clay, you're wrong.
Oh, no! You know what? I bet he had one in a preseason game.
We should have gone.
Wait a second. I took a fumble and rolled into the end zone with it against the Steelers in Pittsburgh.
Is that when everyone jumped on top
And then
of
I
him?
intercepted a pass amazingly against the Steelers and ran it in Cleveland Stadium.
I remember that.
I think we got to
Yeah.
go with Clay Matthews on this.
And then, of
Yeah.
course, I had a lot of things pre-1981, but they erased all those. There at least were 6 or 7 touchdowns to score.
Oh man.
Hey, I think I know them too.
This is back-to-back weeks. Our stats department has let us down.
The
then.
stats department, what
Yeah,
is
what
it?
happened, stats department?
Well, our
Yeah.
stats department also cleans up the place after us every night. so-
Stats department's located in Atlanta, so we'll make some adjustments here.
Okay.
Okay, well
That's
that's
right.
good. Then I think we're still 3 for 3.
Yeah, we're 3-0.
You guys are 3-0.
Clay
Also,
said 2. It's 2.
Clay, I know you mentioned
Okay.
Team
All right,
USA
we'll
earlier.
continue to
Real
see
quick, Morocco just beat Spain in penalty kicks. Spain's out of the World Cup. Morocco's
Wow.
in the quarterfinals.
Who saw that coming?
I just lost $8,000.
They were plus 1,200 to win.
I
the
knew
game.
I shouldn't have bet on that.
Yep.
I didn't. I'd never bet. No. I don't even know what's going on.
Hey, right.
Anybody that bets on soccer needs a psych evaluation.
When we have bad debt, we just ask Jay to borrow money. Hey, dog, it's a rough one. Can I get a bag?
All right. What's the next question?
Question number 4.
Let's move on. Question number 4. Okay. In 2017, our family appeared in a commercial for what streaming service?
I want to say Hulu so
I want to
bad.
say Hulu too.
I
I don't know why I want to say Hulu.
It couldn't have been Netflix. They didn't have none of them other ones.
Our family appeared in a commercial for what streaming service? It's DirecTV.
He says it's DirecTV.
You're right. It what? Yeah, but that's
Wait.
You're
But,
right.
but I didn't count. I guess DirecTV is streaming
They
now.
stream now.
yeah.
You tried to
was
fool
DirecTV.
us. You tried to fool us. You
I could be
dirty.
wrong, but I feel very confident about it.
Yes.
You know what, Bull? As soon as you said that, I thought, yeah,
yep,
it's
he's right.
DirecTV.
We're sure it's not CNN
think I
Plus.
remember that.
We're sure it's not CNN Plus.
Boy, but
CNN Plus.
We're sure. Okay.
Don Lemon on the line.
All right.
Yeah, let's go with
All right.
let's go with DirecTV.
DirecTV. We're going DirecTV.
Final answer, DirecTV. All right, let's bring up the answer.
Oh! Who would have known that?
PlayStation View? They don't even have that no more.
Well, don't put it
I
like
know.
that.
Well, it was a tough question. Look, apparently my dad doesn't even remember it.
I know.
He was like, I was just there.
Well, we did the commercial for the actual device, not the streaming service.
Seems like confusing branding, even at this point.
By the way, I did go to Clay Matthews' Pro Football Reference page, and he does have 2 career touchdowns.
Two career touchdowns.
Beautiful. I knew it.
And he's right. 1 interception and 1 fumble return.
Good.
Now, I thought he had a pick 6, or was that just a big interception against Houston in the playoff game?
He did not have a touchdown in the playoffs.
No, but you did have a big interception against Houston.
The interception was against Buffalo, I believe.
Oh, Buffalo. Yeah, you're right. It was Buffalo.
Yes.
Look at that. See?
Absolutely.
No, I took about 1 step and thought I better get down.
And then you fell down. Well, it was at the end of the game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought it was
We
against
have
Houston.
one question left here, guys, and this question is brought to us by our good friends at PCC Air Force because it is an internet question. And we do not have time for internet comments today. So this last question will be brought to us by PCC. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Mentor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more.
Bull doesn't have anything he said.
Nothing.
Jen, last question. Whenever you're ready.
Last question.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
I'll be impressed with this one. Okay, my dad was cast to play himself in which 1996 movie starring Tom Cruise?
It's got to be Jerry Maguire, right? Sports agent,
But he
Definitely.
right?
Yeah,
Right?
definitely Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right? 96?
Yeah.
That was 96.
I can see the VHS tape right now and looking at me in the face. I think I was it.
Let's go Jerry Maguire.
We're gonna go Jerry.
Although there's something about that movie, I don't know why the movie where he was
Interview
a
with
race
the
car
Vampire?
driver. No, the race car driver
I think
popped into my
Days
head.
of Thunder.
But you got to be right. It's
Yeah,
got to
but
be.
why would he be in Days of Thunder?
There's no reason. I don't know why it popped into my head, but Jerry Maguire's got
Let's
to be
lock this in. He was definitely in Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
Let's check it
That
out.
was one of the greatest movies. I love that movie.
Great movie.
Very inspiring. Let's check it out.
Cuba fell all the way off
All
after
right.
that.
Final answer is Jerry Maguire, and the answer
That's it, baby. So he does have
Hold on
something
a
in
second.
common with Tom Cruise.
is, first of all, the picture that was up of my brother has his eyes closed, but we'll let that go. It's like the worst picture of him. It was up. But secondly, Dad told a story of Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, okay, so I went down and I did the scene with him, and it was just a quick scene. He said something to me, I said something to him, and, so actually I came back, I was in Atlanta at the time, and the movie finally came out. So one of our coaches went to see it. And I said to him, "Hey, did you see me in the movie?" He goes, "No, I didn't see it." I go, "It's this scene where, this happens." And he goes, "Didn't see it." And I go, "Well, it didn't it's real quick." So I finally went to see the movie about a week later, and I'm in there, and I go, "Okay, this is it." And I was walking down the hall, and I knew it was coming. This was it in the movie. And all of a sudden, it's like 3 or 4 seconds later, and I didn't realize they had cut me out.
Oh, you gotta be kidding!
I just sat there in the movie, totally deflated.
Especially because you're telling people you're in it. Okay, so then we can bag on Tom Cruise because he cut you out of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
When you did the scene, was he standing on something to make him look taller? Because he's like 5'6".
Yeah, he isn't that tall, but he did have some lifts in his shoes.
I knew it.
Heck, I used to wear lifts around the offensive linemen, so I did it. Yeah.
Better
Actually,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jen.
are you still getting checks from Jerry Maguire, or did they finally end?
No, I still get them.
He still gets
They still
checks.
show you the
It's
money.
like $8.80.
Yeah. So Clay, this is a true story. I was in one of the Rocky movies. It was actually called Balboa, which was Rocky 6.
Yeah.
Same thing. I get the SAG-AFTRA check every 3 months. It's like $13.11. The first ones were a lot, but then they still come in every 3 months. I don't know who the hell's watching that movie now, but let's hope they keep watching Jerry Maguire and Balboa, and we're gonna get rich one day. That's for sure.
Yeah, actually, it goes to Europe, and they put a little note on there.
International
But-
fees and everything.
Mr.
Yeah,
Matthews,
but Jerry Maguire has some legs to it.
It does.
Yeah.
That's one of the all-time great movies.
better acting partner in the scene, Tom Cruise or that drugged-up grizzly bear from Masters of the Gridiron?
What? Tiny Tim was in
Yes, he was.
Masters of the Gridiron.
Really?
Go through the tulips.
Oh, my God. That's
Yeah.
a pretty good Tiny Tim, by
Thank
the way.
you. I've been working on it. He's horrifying in an interesting way.
He's horrifying.
Thanks, guys.
Clay, you're the best. And Jen, thanks for bringing Pops on. You know we love it.
Appreciate you.
You know we love it.
Appreciate
You
it.
guys
Thanks,
have
guys.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead, Clay.
don't care.
No, he's got one more thing.
No, what do you do? Just sit around and talk about the Browns all
That's
day?
it.
That's
That's
pretty
it.
good.
Yeah. Come
Can you
on.
believe that?
Pull up.
Great life.
Come
we all,
on in.
we all have to
Man,
be
that
kept
is a
away
good
from
line.
sharp objects.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks again for your time.
All right,
Thanks,
Clay, you're the
guys.
best. Jen, thank you. Thank you, Jen and Clay.
That is my mom, Peggy
All right.
Polk's favorite player. She wears his jersey to this day.
She had a major crush on him.
Oh yeah, all the aunts in town
Oh,
did back
all
in the
the
day.
moms, the
Oh,
aunts.
especially if that movie came out and they were all greased up and fighting a grizzly bear.
Wearing a
You know how many
diaper.
aunts were happy in Parma when that
I
happened?
never
Show
watched
a
that. I
clip
can't
of
believe
that?
you've never watched it.
I have not seen it.
I didn't even heard of it until Mike or somebody brought it up.
He
recently.
didn't bite on my screening. He dodged that
No,
very,
he's
very
not.
deftly. He's not coming to
He
Cleveland.
lives in
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I want to
Well,
commit to that.
we could fly him in on Spirit.
Yeah,
right.
bring
I
him in
mean,
on a
we
big
got
He
that.
has to schlep to Cleveland. He's living
No,
his
JetBlue's
best life
high
in
class
Arizona.
compared to
But how
Oh,
often does he
yeah.
get to go to a movie premiere and be like,
Yeah.
go down a red carpet,
Stay in a Days Inn.
stay at a Days Inn
Maybe
by the
that-
airport?
Maybe that weird one in Lakewood.
That weird.
I think it might have been closed
Yeah,
down.
the Omar Vizquel one. Wink, wink.
that really
Hey,
the
there were
one?
some.
I'm
I got
sorry.
some stories.
By
for
the
you.
way, quick follow. We have obviously we don't have time for final takes, but quick coincidence about the movie Jerry Maguire. So you know the agent that fires him.
Yes.
You know what his real name is?
Well, in real life, it was supposed to be the quarterback guru. I know him. He was the super agent for all quarterbacks.
Drew Rosenhaus.
Drew Rosenhaus.
Yeah.
No. That's not who that
No?
was. The movie was based after he was the quarterback guy in the 80s. He had Kelly,
Yes.
he had Marino.
He's still around now, but he doesn't. I
you know
can't
what?
think of his name.
He's around, and
Not Drew Rosenhaus.
We're
You're
looking
right.
it up.
No.
I'm looking it up.
He has a
Go
social
to-
media presence now. Still,
Go
the guy.
to the Google
Yes.
check
I
of
can't
He
think of
goes
his
to the
name,
Super
though.
Bowl party every year, and I've been to a number of them.
the
and they're
actor, let me tell you the story real quick. So the actor who played that guy who fired Tom Cruise is a guy named Jay Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a stand-up
Jay Moore,
comedian.
Yeah. He was on
Yes,
SNL
okay.
briefly.
So I don't know if I've ever told the story. Maybe on the radio I told the story. So when I was a freshman in college, at 18 years old, I went to a school called Purchase. It was State University of New York at Purchase. I went there for 1 year, and I got
Lee Steinberg.
Lee Steinberg, right?
Yeah.
So I dropped out after 1 year, and then just worked for a while before I went back to Brockport, went back to college. But at 18, I went to the school SUNY Purchase. Jay Moore used to hang out in our dorm room all the time. This was before he was just starting up as a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. Did he go to school there or something?
No, but his best friend was one of my roommates.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
he used to hang out all the time.
Boy, he was hateable in Jerry Maguire, wasn't he?
So hateable, right? It was so funny because he would come and he'd like do stand up in our dorm.
Yeah.
And I was like, this guy's not
Sounds
funny.
exhausting.
I would never think he was like I wouldn't say it to him,
Right.
but I never thought he was funny. And then he had a really good career.
Right.
And he was in a movie with Jennifer Aniston. He used to fill in for Jim Rome
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, big
Anyway, he
sports
was a
fan.
funny guy.
Nice career.
But here's the funny story. I actually beat the shit out of his best friend one time.
Your roommate.
Yes.
Why? Over Jay
Because-
Moore's bad comedy?
No, because back in those days, right, you had, like, nobody had cell phones.
No.
This is 1989, right? So we had to have, like, a code to make a phone. Like, we had a
Facts.
phone that 6 of us shared.
I
And you
remember
put,
that.
in your,
Oh,
you
God.
put in your code, and
How
that's...
primitive, but that's
Right?
how they did it.
That's
I
how
was
they
doing that
knew
my
how to
freshman
chart,
year.
and then you
And
got
this
a bill.
this guy was making long distance calls on your code.
No, opposite. For whatever reason, my code. I didn't have a code. I don't know if mine. I don't know what happened, but I said to him, "Can I use your code? When you get the bill, I'll pay you for all my calls. If you..." And I even said to him, I'll never forget. I said, "Even if there's a call that I don't think I made, but you don't think you made it, I'll pay for it. Anything we're not sure, I'll pay for it, whatever it is."
Right.
So he gets his bill, and he comes running towards me,
Like,
and
like you guys never had that
like
conversation?
we never had the conversation.
Oh, that's the worst.
And I'm like, I told you I was going to pay. Tell me how much it is and I'm going to pay you right now. And he's like, no, you didn't tell me. And he was like going bananas.
Sounds like a cool dude.
And I just started beating the shit out of him.
In front of Jay Moore?
No, Jay Moore wasn't there.
Did you end up paying him for the phone bill?
I think so, but honestly, I don't remember.
I would have wet the money and threw it at him. Wet dollar bills.
Yeah, or pay him in pennies.
I used to fight all the time when I was younger.
But
It's so ridiculous.
I can agree.
Ridiculous.
I love
It's
thinking.
idiotic
I
to
just
fight.
like thinking. You just beat the crap out of people.
From like 14 to 19,
But you
I
were
would
kind of
fight all the
justified.
time.
I mean, he was the.
In this case, I was justified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this-
Off
Another time, I beat the crap out of Greg Cohen, who is now the head of sports information for
Allegedly.
the City University of New York.
Wow.
Beat the crap out of him because he spit in my face.
Why would he do that?
And I went bananas. I almost
Why'd he spit in
I almost
your
gave him a
face?
pile driver on the concrete. I probably would have killed him.
Why?
Thank God I got broken up.
This goes
I
back
was in high school.
Why'd he spit in your face?
Yeah, real moves.
Why?
I got my ass kicked once though by Tommy Santora.
Why did he get
Tommy
Tommy was
Santora.
tough,
How you get to work? How you got that work? How you do you like that, bro?
What? I got fights? I was a good fighter back. Now I couldn't fight worth a crap. I only lost one fight ever. I probably had about a dozen fights. I lost once. Tommy
Amateur
Santora.
record.
Why did you fight Tommy Santora?
Tommy Santora, I yelled at him because we were playing softball or baseball, and he hit me with a pitch, and I yelled at him, and we were arguing, and then we started fighting. Now, when I fought, I would wrestle. I wasn't a boxer.
Yeah, all fights turn into wrestling.
But Tommy Santora knew how to box.
Rematch.
yeah.
Tommy
I couldn't get my
Santora.
hands on him. He was half my size.
Yeah.
He was
You guys pay for
jabbing me in the
pay-per-view
face.
right now between Tommy Santora and Bull.
Rematch.
I would definitely
Tommy
pay for that.
Santora versus
No, we
Bull.
may not, but you know, back in those days, we were
20
just talking
seconds,
about
Bull.
this
20
yesterday.
seconds.
Tommy
You weren't- nobody
Santora
was
probably
shooting
isn't in great
everybody.
shape either.
He beat me up. We were friends again a week later.
And this is sponsored by Fight Night 2023.
By the way, to set the record straight, Jay Moore did not play Lee Steinberg. Lee Steinberg was actually played by
Top jerk, but the guy who fires him.